Okay, we will go ahead and call to order the June 16th meeting of the Lewis Central Board of Directors. Can we get roll call, please?
Ms. Atkins?
Here.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Here.
Mrs. Peterson? Mrs. Sheffel?
Here.
Mr. Sorensen?
Here.
Mr. Sturm?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here. Approval of the June 16th, 2025 agenda. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Commendations, good news.
So I do have a little, oh, what happened to it? Okay, I said the date wrong on there. But anyway, so just kind of did a brief rundown from the end of the school year. Just kind of want to touch base on spring activities. Ireland. So our soccer teams had good seasons. The girls ended up making it to the sub-state finals. Ended up losing Indianola. We did end up with 2 first-team All-State selections in Ireland White and Maya Humlick. So that was great. Maya actually played in a East-West All-Star game as well. Go to the next one. The boys had a great season as well. They ended up losing to Glenwood in the sub-state semifinal. Had a bunch of academic awards, so a couple, 3 second-team All-Academic, and Landon Duff, Cooper Williams, and Quill Orth, and then had a couple of academic All-State honorable mentions, and Sam Adkins and Diego Martinez. So great season for the boys soccer team. We ended up having 12 state qualifiers for the girls, and then we had 10 state qualifiers for the boys. We had 2 medalists for the girls. We had Aubrey Davis medaled in the 200-meter open, and then we had Jordan Matteo medaled in both discus and shot. We didn't have any boys medalists, but we bumped up the class this year, so it's just a totally different world. I think you would have put us in 3A versus 4A, and I think we would have brought home some medals, but, you know, bumping up and going against those really, really big schools is tough. But, you know, still qualifying 10 and 12 is fantastic. So I'm super proud of them. Chloe Perfect, as a freshman, went to state in golf this year and ended up with 20th place. So congratulations to Chloe. We did not have any boys qualify for state, but they had a fine season as well. We got a lot of youth, so that's good. I brought this up because this was actually a picture of the middle school student council. They ended up throwing the dance. Remember, they came here and pitched the dance, and so I just kind of wanted to give an update on that. The dance was successful. I swung by, stayed for a while. That was my promise to Dr. Reynolds, was that if she would agree to a dance, that I would be there. So had, I think, just right around 200 students attend, and when I walked in, it looked like they were having a great time. So kind of wandering around like middle school kids do. You get some that dance, a lot that stand, and then about half wander. So, but they all are having a good time. The Special Olympics, so we ended up with several. It was kind of a weird season because we ended up, they couldn't have a state qualifying meet, so they allowed us to send students to the state Special Olympics meet, and everybody kind of got to pick kind of their best event. And so we had a lot of first place. As you can see there, Tyler Cole, Brentley Conrad. It's hard for me to see. Can you read the names?
Denver.
Okay.
Alyssa Claypot.
Yep.
And Gabriella Holmes.
Yep, and Gabrielle I'm getting second. So very, very proud of them, and had an awesome state showing. And then we ended up having some students for 8th grade honor band qualify. So if I can read this right, Bronson Martinez, sorry, the screen is a little blurry. Chloe Wiley, what's the next one? What's Miss Flowers' first name? Kiona Flowers, Megan McElderly, and Thea DeLong. So congratulations to those individuals who made the All Iowa 8th grade honor band. So very proud of them. And then that's it. So we had other things that we mentioned in the past meetings. We had the Black Box Theater first performance. They're currently trying to get somebody new to come out and fix the air conditioning, so hopefully we'll have that fixed. But yeah, it was overall a great spring and a great end of the school year. Baseball, softball teams are doing phenomenal. So looking forward to see what kind of noise they can make again. It's, playing in the biggest division, so got to go against the big dogs. But again, anybody can qualify at any time. You just got to win, string together some wins. So that's it.
Any additional commendations, good news? Okay. Then we will move to comments and suggestions. This is the first portion of our meeting where we open the floor to any feedback from either the public here or anybody online. And we'll give it a minute or two for those that may be online.
Can we play the Jeopardy music or something?
Okay, good to move on? Okay. Okay, then, hearing no comments and suggestions, we will move to the consent agenda. Do we have any updates?
Yeah, we have an updated personnel sheet.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Reports, 6.01, curriculum instruction report.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears from what I told Dr. Hazen I was going to present on. And I'm going to show you guys what we're working on for our second para conference. So last year we put on a conference for our paraprofessionals, and it was really well received. Even at the end of the year, they were still talking about how much they appreciated this opportunity because it's just for them. This year we've invited some other school districts. So we've got a couple other districts that are bringing some of their paras to this. But the first day is a day where we've got some in-house facilitators who will be presenting, and paras can have their pick of which sessions they're going to go to. Also, a huge thank you to the high school for accommodating us for these classrooms and for using their auditorium and common space. But you can see here in the beginning, we come in, have some breakfast. Brandy Matney is going to do a little guided meditation and some self-care. Then the next session, they can pick between supporting academic success, which would be led by some of our coaches and teachers, or one on navigating challenging behaviors, which would be put on by a couple high school staff members. Then the next session, Laura Kessler is going to do one on helping students succeed with UFly. UFly has been the basically our phonics kind of program that we're using in our elementaries, and so there's a lot of ways that our paraprofessionals can support. You know, they can't do any like new teaching, but they can do some support with some of the teaching that's already occurred. So we're going to teach them some of those principles. If they are not an elementary para, they could go to the other one, which is led by another high school staff member, about building that effective para and teacher partnership. And I think outside of the UFly, another important thing to share with you is all of these topics are topics that the paras said that they wanted to learn about. And then the last one would be de-escalation deep dive by a middle school staff member. And then opposite of that, we're still planning what that session's going to be, but I think we're going to have that be parents of students with IEPs, because another thing that paras want to learn more about is just some awareness about students who have disabilities. I think it'd be interesting if we did like a parent panel for that session. And then in the afternoon, we have reached out to our EAP, our Employee Assistance Program, and they've got somebody who's going to come and do this session over lunch, a little bit about the stories we tell ourselves and how that impacts us. And then the second day we're really excited about. Last year we brought in a speaker and they really enjoyed her. This year we're bringing in Willow Sweeney. Jenny and Andrea both heard from her when she was at IASBO that she was at? But you can see here in blue just some of the topics that she talks about, just like a lot about, thinking differently, like how we frame things, how to manage stress, reducing negativity. I mean, things that we all can benefit from. And so we thought that that would be a great speaker to bring in for our para conference. So if you know anybody who is interested in donating things for a swag bag, let me know. Last year we had businesses donate like coupons, little stress balls, pens, and the paras just like loved it. Like that was in the feedback form that they were like, we love the swag bags. And so it can be a lot of work to like just pick up the phone and call those places. But if I have a connection and somebody knows somebody who's interested, Iowa Western last year did a great job of giving us some items. So if you know anybody, I'd love to connect with them to see if we can get some bags going for our paras. But probably looking around 50 people who would be in attendance for this conference. So it'll be right before our new teacher days, August 11th and 12th. Any questions about the para conference? If anyone wants to come, you're welcome to.
Our pairs, are they required? Or is it something that they?
It's an expectation that,
Okay.
their start date starts on August 11th. I think
Okay.
we had maybe everybody minus maybe somebody who was like sick or on vacation last year. So, yeah, it's nice.
You said we invite other schools as well?
This is the first year that we've done that. So we've shared this with several other superintendents. We've got several coming from Riverside, I think a couple from Missouri Valley. And I haven't checked, but even AHSTW reached out to me last week and is curious about sending people. But I think it's a little unique. There's not a lot of districts that, put on something just for paras. So it'd be nice to continue to open that door and invite others into this too.
Very cool. Any other questions for Dr. Hartman? Okay, then we will move on to 6.02, Finance Report.
So this board meeting, we had the financials in the packet. So these are the expenditures to certified budget through May 2025. So with that, we will have one more month left in this fiscal year. And with that, we have our instructional expenses are at 78% of our budget, which is pretty much right on where we want to be. We have the 1 month of expenses, but we also have to expense 2 months worth of payroll. So we have all of that'll come out. And then the same with the general fund as well. We're at 78.69%. So running really well there and pretty far under budget in majority of the other funds. But a lot of that has to do with timing of when we did this budget over a year ago of when our capital projects would fall into place. And then also when we do this budget, we don't know what our property insurance is going to look like for that year yet. So we are also under in the management fund as well. So everything is running very well for FY25. Are there any questions?
What does the other enterprise include?
LCLC.
Are we talking about management fund this meeting or no?
We're just gonna talk about the insurance piece.
But that'll be later?
Yeah, that'll be during my report. Yeah.
Okay.
So next.
Any other questions for Andrea? Okay, then we will move on to 6.03, Superintendent Report.
So I just have a couple things. First of all, the survey that was sent out to all community members, we currently have over 300 responses. I'm not allowed to see what, because it is collected and organized by IASB, it's anonymous, so I can't see any of the results of the answers. I can kind of see what he sends me or screenshots, and I can see that approximately 60% of our respondents have been parents, 22% have been students, and then 15% have been staff members. So, and then we do have a couple resident community members as well that have answered the survey as well. So, so that's out there right now, and we'll have that be out through probably the first or second week of July. Usually you get your most responses in the first 2 weeks. We'll send a couple reminder emails. We have it posted on the website. Like there'll be a couple of things that we'll put out there. We do not advertise on social media because what ends up happening is we have a lot of, the bots will take over, and then we'll have a lot of responses from people who have no connection to school whatsoever. So, pretty much it's directly tied to the contacts that we have, which we do have a lot of grandparents, we do have a lot of former, students and their parents who have received the email, so it's still a good collective of people in the community. If anybody wanted a copy of it, we will send it directly to them if they call and give us their address. But as far as posting on social media, that's just not going to happen because we want accurate data. So, and then, so that'll be back here soon. We do have a SIAC, which is School Improvement Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow night. Remember you guys approved the list of people last week. So tomorrow night we'll go through a presentation. Dr. Harmon and I created that. We'll go through things like our bullying data. We'll go bullying data. We'll go through our student assessment data. We'll go through our goals that we currently have. We'll give our attendees opportunities to kind of give us their feedback and their response and their thoughts on the information. I'll compile all the recommendations that they have for both long-term and short-term goals and areas of focus, and then I'll bring that to the board when we have our work session after we get the survey data, so we can kind of finalize what are our top priorities for the district. So I think it's good to get their feedback. Megan Conklin, who's our LCLC and LCEF director, she's doing a fantastic job. She's kind of jumped right in, meeting parents from LCLC, already talking about doing some training with our staff and getting our all of our credentials and certifications kind of up to par with the state. And then they're also, summer's a very busy time for LCLC. They do a lot of activities, a lot of field trips, so kind of going with that, and then really focusing on the billing piece as well. And I know Andrea's working with her on that. She's also trying to run the Foundation Golf Tournament at the same time. Foundation Golf Tournament is June 27th, 2025. They are completely out of spots, which is awesome. That means they totally sold out. But they're always looking for pin prize and raffle sponsors. If anybody else is interested in putting together a basket or donating something for a pin prize or raffle, they'll take that as well. And then the last thing I have is we did receive our liability and workman's comp insurance today, our insurance renewal. This is not something the board approves because we don't really have an option. We only have a couple opportunities in the state or for companies that will even offer us a bid. The lowest bid we got was a 10% increase over what we paid last year or what we're currently paying this year. And just so people understand, like when the state starts talking about capping the management fund or taking a look at the management fund and doing something different than that or going away with it, it's not management in the sense of managing, and I think that's where the really concerning piece. I would love if the state would change it to like insurance fund. Like that's very clear and it's exactly what we can use the money for. There is no management, there's no administrative fees, there's nothing that comes out of it other than insurance. And the reason that the state has it balanced the way it is, where the district has control over how big or how small the management fund is because our insurance we have no control over. Just like you have no control over your homeowner's insurance or your auto insurance and you have to have it, the school is legally obligated to carry liability insurance on everything. And so, and workman's comp insurance. And so we have very little control over those expenses. And in fact, the renewal we got this year, and this is just a kind of a heads up on that. I'll pull it up right here. Just so people understand what a 10% increase is, it is overall 10% increase is this year we paid $1,022,000. Next year we will pay $1,125,000, and that bid is, and every year EMC is the company we purchase our insurance through. But our representative is like Hub or Silverstone, have been for years. They every year go out and rebid our stuff, and so we get kind of fresh renewals every year. And the other one wasn't even close to the same ballpark. So But again, the market for school insurance coverage is very, very small. Only a few entities even want to tackle such a thing. So really limited to those two. But when the state talks about capping the management fund, or lowering the management fund, or lowering the amount of money we can spend on the management fund, really what they're talking about is lowering the amount of money that we have available to us to pay for the increases in insurance. Like that's really what it is, and something that we have absolutely no control over any capacity with. The other thing you can pay for out of the management fund is when you have to pay off lawsuits, and that's another thing. As much as we try, people can sue you for anything at any time for any reason, and that's why we have the management fund as well. So that way, if something were to happen and we have to pay legal bills, or we have to, we have an insurance claim, that we pay that out of the management fund. It doesn't have to come out of our general fund, which would impact students. And so that's why it's important to have a management fund, and really to leave that as a local control thing with the board. They have it so tied down anyway, we can't spend on anything if we wanted to. Only insurance, and only if we had an early retirement incentive package, you could spend it on that as well. But the problem is we don't really want people to retire early because there's not enough teachers. So, that's a hard thing too. So, so that's it. That's just the more you know. That's my TED Talk today on management fund. So, try to let that be a locally controlled decision, because we have no control over how much we have to spend out of that. So, you want to add anything to that, Andrea?
I think you got it all.
Okay. So just FYI, that'll be our increase for this next year. One of the things you guys will have the ability to vote on tonight would be to go along with our insurance coverage. So every year we get an increase, and just like mine this year, my home value, my home value jumped up like 30%. My value went up too, but like my home insurance went up like 30%. But the more concerning thing to me was my hail deductible went from like $1,500 to like, $80,000. And so I'm like, man, if I get hail, I got to pay like 80, like that's the cost of my roof, like twice. So trying to figure out, how do we lower that? The schools did the same thing. So even though the insurance goes up 10%, so it goes up 10%, our insurance deductible for our roof went from a $50,000 deductible to a $1.8 million deductible if something happens that's wind, hail, or insurance related, or wind or hail related. So if anything happens to our buildings that's as a product of wind or hail, we have a deductible of $1.8 million.
Well, and it has happened.
Yeah.
Look at the pool.
Oh, I look at the pool. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
down, we had the mini tornado, that one,
Right.
Yeah.
And so essentially what would end up happening is we're just gonna pay for our own new roofs out of pocket. Insurance is never gonna hit it. So there's a group of people they got together from Jester Insurance, and they basically are offering an opportunity for schools to pool money, and you would pay in a certain amount, and then if something were to happen, we basically buy the deductible down to $50,000. So instead of 1.8 million, it's 50,000. Now it costs us another $71,000 to buy into that pool, but it's better than paying $1.8 million if something were to happen. So
Is that on an annual basis?
it's on an annual basis. Yep.
So
It's your
this is technically like gap insurance?
gap insurance, exactly. A rider basically is what you're paying for. It's a $71,000 rider. But that one-time $50,000 deductible, if we get a windstorm roll through or a hailstorm roll through and it damages the high school, the middle school, Titan Hill, ERC, and the operations building, I'm saying those because they're all in the same area, and all of those, it's $50,000 for total. Like, it's not $50,000 per building, it's a one-time $50,000. So it's an insurance policy. You're either banking on, you're gonna pay $71,000 a year, so if anything happens, you only pay $50,000, or you pay nothing, and then if something happens, you pay 1.8 million. So the hardest thing when it comes to any business is the what if expenses, and this is where it comes down to trying to figure out a way to not interrupt student performance, and especially if they're going to be capping the management fund, like if we don't have $1.8 million in the management fund to be able to spend, that's all going to come after the general fund or, you know, or the Save or PEPAL, and that's going to impact our ability to serve kids. So we're kind of, it's one of those, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So, but again, that'll be a discussion here in a little bit. I'm just sharing, these are some options for us. And then, that is about it for mine. I do have, moving into, I guess I'll let,
Go
President.
ahead, you're.
Oh, we're good. No, as we go to the next one, I'll invite up, Mr. Brett up here to talk about, and I just shared with you, Dr. Hartman, his spreadsheet. And I'll let him talk about where we currently stand with all of our projects, so.
Well, you've probably all seen there's quite a bit of activity going on. Happy to report at this point, everything is going very well. I'll you want me to buzz through all of them that I can rattle off my head? Or?
Yep, just real quick, if you
Okay.
just want to give them a quick.
So the stuff going on right now, we'll start at the high school. That's where the majority of the work is. The high school parking lot, we've had really good results there. The parking lot came up quick. We have not found any bad soil underneath the existing parking lot, which everybody was really afraid of. So it's already been graded, compacted, passed all the tests required for the engineer's desired compactions and all that. So phase one is completely outgraded, and the electrician started today. He's got to reroute some electrical piping and move light poles and add the camera piping so we can get the camera cables in. So he'll have a week and a half in there, and then we'll be ready to start pouring concrete. So to date, so far, really good. These big rainstorms that might be sneaking in, we'll take a little bit of rain, but not the big ones. So let's keep those away. Tennis courts, they just moved the equipment in today. They're going to start doing all the site prep on that probably tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on this weather that comes through. So that project's just getting rolling. What else at the high school? High school's got the fire alarm going on. They are progressing really well. The north wing, let's call it, the education wing, first floor, second floor, most of the wire and devices have been pulled and installed through the classrooms, and they're getting in the hallways now. The existing fire alarm panel has been disabled and removed. Just so everybody is aware, we are monitoring with a temporary panel the fire sprinkler system, so that in the event something does happen and the fire sprinklers go off, the fire department will still be notified. So we do have a little bit of monitoring going on, but they're moving along well. No concerns with them. The roofer, he is doing really good. He has all the ballast off the old roof and probably 25% of the roof already replaced in the areas we're working. So they're moving along really good too. What else at the high school? The chiller project is progressing also. The chiller's been shut off, drained, started disconnects. We will likely be pulling the old chiller off its location this week, and we have to modify the pad a little bit to get the new chiller installed on it. So that's kind of going as planned right now also. And then all the other miscellaneous jobs, the painting, the trophy cases, the weight room, everything's sitting in a good spot at the high school. Middle school really doesn't have much going on this summer. We just have 10,000 square foot of roof on the south side that we're doing. They have not started that yet. The material's here, but we're waiting on, we have to remove 2 rooftop units off the roof. Just, it's not built properly. The rooftop units are sitting on the rubber versus they're supposed to be on a curb. Something that was done whenever, and so we have to disconnect and remove the rooftop units to do the roof properly. While doing that, we are going to add a curb in so that it's properly installed. In the future, if you ever have to redo a roof, you don't have to take these apart again, because it's a pretty good chunk of money just to take them down and put them back up to put the roof down. But that's supposed to happen Thursday and Friday. We will not have air conditioning in the gymnasium or cafeteria those days as we remove and replace the units. But that project, the roofer, he was gonna start today or tomorrow, just, he didn't wanna start too early, have to leave while he waits for the mechanical guys to come, so he's just trying to time it around them. Creft, lighting project, moving really quickly. They are probably 60 to 70% installed with the new LED lights in the Creft building right now. There is a lot of programming work and kind of battery backups on the emergency lights, a lot of detail work that takes a little longer, but probably 70% of the lights themselves have been switched out already. And the secure entrance, that is not slated to start until right after July 1st. It's only about a 3-week project to do, and they were timing them starting around when the new aluminum door frame and doors come in. There's no sense getting in there early and then leaving and waiting for some frames to show up. So that'd be about 3 weeks to do that and be done late July. Titan Hills is the last one. So paving up here, we've already completed phase 1, as you can probably see with the caution cones. We got some concrete test results today on the concrete that was poured, made sure that it hit design strength. We're looking to go to phase 2 routing for public drop-offs with the kids and daycare, everything. So I'll probably either tonight or early tomorrow morning flip the caution cones around to reroute everybody so we can start on the main larger parking lot area. And we'll keep that traffic routing until the project's essentially complete. And then the only other thing up here is the lighting project up here. It's about twice the size of Crefts as far as quantity of lights. Bluffs Electric's doing the install on this one. They're moving at a steady pace. It's not going as quickly as Creft, and we're monitoring them just to make sure that they're on the right track to still be done in time. We kind of did an evaluation this afternoon, checked their progress, how many lights a day they're getting in classrooms versus how many are left to do, and they're sitting in decent shape. They're not flying through it as fast as the other one, but right now there's no concern that they won't be done in the time frame they're allowed to be done. So that's kind of where we're at with all the major ones. There's a lot of other little things going on, but that's the quick update of where we are.
And I'll just add on top of that, so the Raptor emergency response system, they were in all weekend installing strobes at Creft. This week they're in Titan Hill, so they have about 2 more weeks and they should be done with that. Playgrounds, they actually had a meeting today in which they were trying to get in touch with the installer so we can have some firm dates when they should be coming out, because we know it's supposed to be like end of June, we just don't know when. So trying to get those dates. And then high school painting, they're actually prepping the gym right now. They painted all the inside of the wrestling room, but now the gym's kind of their next big item. So so excited to see that getting going. I guess any questions about projects in general?
Well, one, I wanted to thank Project Advocates for their weekly emails with images of stuff that's going on at Lewis Central. Do we have any of those images that we're sharing on our bond site as well? Perfect, thank you. But it's very informative, and it's great for me, especially when you don't have, every day to drive around the site or whatnot to see what's going on. So thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, Emma, because she updates the website daily, so she's got anything that we get sent, she's got new pictures on there daily, and she's all over that thing. So you get to go to menu.
So with the playground, especially here at
updates.
Titan Hill, LCLC, I'm sure, uses the playground, so are they kind of working around with them, or is they both going to be shut down, or
Yeah,
are they
right-
doing one side, then going to do the other side, or?
So their primary concern is starting at Creft. So they're
Okay.
gonna knock out Creft first, because Creft, with having those little ones, they really don't have another option
Right.
to play outside. So their goal is to have Creft 100% done by the start of school. That means they're gonna start tear out everything at Creft. So right now, they're still using all the playgrounds at Titan Hill. We won't start the tear out at Titan Hill until probably July, and then once we tear it out, then they will primarily be inside or, we'll figure out other locations for them to be, but they probably won't have access for at least the second half of the summer to any playgrounds, so. But they'll figure out arts and crafts, they have gyms, they have those types of things, so. And then we have, when they do Titan Hill, they're gonna focus first on getting, the turf and the Gaga ball pits laid on the, cause that can be done the fastest, that'll be the third playground up in the hill. And so then that way, when they start school, they'll at least have access to that. And it'll be probably mid-September before we're done with, all three playgrounds, so, at Titan Hill, so, it'll be a little bit,
Yeah.
so.
It'll be fun, it would be fun to have like a ribbon cutting or
Yeah,
something.
absolutely, I
Do
think we,
something like
yeah,
that.
I think we'll do a few ribbon cutting type things, you know, maybe one at the tennis courts, because that'll be done about mid-September as well, so they'll have to start the season on the older court, and then they'll, move to the, other court mid-season. We just talked to the contractor today that's doing the tennis courts, and because as part of their bid, they're supposed to take out the current tennis court when the new one's ready to go. And we don't know when the city's gonna come up with a plan or give us the go-ahead or whatever to add that lane. It could be, right now, they're slated for 2029 to start, you know, something on Harry Langdon. So it could be 4 or 5 years, 6 years before we get the go-ahead on that lane. So in the meantime, I asked them, if we could explore the option of turning the current tennis court and just into a parking area. Rather than taking it out, trying to seed it, turning it into grass, that everybody's gonna park on anyway.
Right.
Just, so they made a recommendation, they said it's actually really easy to do. They would just take the fence out around the outside. They would skim the top because there's a layer of,
It's the acrylic surfacing.
Yeah.
Of the play surface.
yeah, so the acrylic surfacing, we would remove that. And then they said, maybe a little patching and some striping and boom, we'll have a playground. And he's like, you could get easily 40, 50, 60 spots out of that. Not playground, parking lot.
Right.
So, high school doesn't need a playground. I don't know, do you? We talk about it. So, yeah, but, and in talking with Mr. Vinchat, I'm glad he's here, because, what were your thoughts on turning that into, additional parking?
Yeah, we need it. We're getting, the parking lot continues to grow, and especially, the beginning of the year is okay, because we have all those 14-year-olds that aren't quite old enough to get that school permit. By the end of the year, we are packed and there are no spots, so that'll be hugely helpful. Even 40 spots would be hugely helpful, so.
Yeah. So they said relatively, very little cost, they could make that happen. So at least we would have something, in the meantime.
Actually, it may not be any cost, because we might swap them instead of removing it, they kind of prep it for us, but, and then the cost of when it does get removed, we may get rolled into the future whenever the driveway goes.
Yeah.
And then driving up here, is the concrete work up here going to affect using that baseball field? Because there's a lot of people camped out at the field over here.
That lane will be real close to that fence, so
But that parking lot is gonna start coming out any day.
That's,
yeah.
so do the ones that, do they reserve that through the school?
They do, through Mr. Dermody.
Okay, so that
yeah.
might be something to address as soon
Yeah.
as possible, because they would have to find someplace else.
But, yeah, potentially. If we could
I
figure
mean,
out a way to,
That parking lot's full,
oh, I know. If
and
we
it's
could,
all full of people.
if we could figure out a way that they could still park in the ERC over here and cross the road this way, they would just have to make sure that they stay out of that area.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I don't know if there'd be enough.
yeah, the
room.
problem is it's gonna displace a lot of people. So I don't know if it's worth putting up a tall silt fence to try to keep balls from going to that area and still allowing them the opportunity to utilize the field. I'll talk with, honestly, probably the person that probably knows most about the field is sitting right here, Miss.
Yeah, normally, this is the first time that there's actually been a game.
Okay.
And they're very littles, and I think it's because there's another team down on the softball field tonight. So
Right.
I think they just had to move, and that was the one field, and especially these 2 weeks of all of the Council Bluffs fields are
Right.
a no-go because of the Slump Buster tournament. So
Right, right.
I think it is
we'll be
very
okay.
much an anomaly that is happening, like.
Usually it's just practice.
Yeah, usually it's just practice and
And there's a few
And
kids, yeah,
parents
that's what I've
don't,
seen.
you know, sit around for the practices, so
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be a big
It's just
deal.
something to consider
Yeah. Mhm.
and
Yeah,
probably
for sure.
check into to see,
Make sure there's no other games up here during that time.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, that, I will say that's one nice thing about, you know, we made the move last year to go play all the baseball, softball games up at Iowa Western's field, and primarily is because we had a super wet summer before, and we got rained out of so many games, it just made sense, because like this year, the teams around us have gotten rained out of 3 or 4 or 5 games, and we've not lost a single game. Like, we've been able to play every night because we play on Iowa Western's turf field. And when other teams call Iowa Western to try to get on the turf field, we have first priority because we are their you know, sports venue partner, you know. So they come to our football field and our pool, we use their baseball, softball. So that's why we have first priority. There have been some people like questioning if we should move just for the community aspect, move our varsity games back to our fields. One of the things we would lose out on is right now we are able to schedule additional JV and freshman games because the varsity's playing and we only have one softball, one baseball field. So because we play at Iowa Western's fields, we're able to schedule more JV and freshman games. The other thing we're able to do is allow our community members and our youth programs to utilize our fields. So our baseball, softball fields are booked every night. So if we moved our varsity sports back to our home fields and didn't utilize Iowa Western, we would essentially push out all the youth teams, you know, like, and I would say they're used. So it's been a good partnership. I'm not saying it's a perfect situation. I know there's a lot of nostalgia from playing, you know, on these fields here. But it has been a good partnership with Iowa Western, and it's been, you know, I think our kids like playing out there too. Like, that's another thing we've talked about, you know. It's hard to tell kids who would prefer to play on Iowa Western's field, no, you have to play back here because there's some nostalgia back here,
Right.
you know, so.
Well, it's just like graduation. They used to have it in the gym. I would
Yeah.
never want to go back to having it in the gym.
Right, yeah.
Even with air conditioning, you know? And so it's just part of growing.
How about switching it to Saturday nights graduation, huh, people? And off of Memorial Day Sunday? Anybody?
They used to have it out on the football field
Yes.
until class of '94 was the last one, I think, that had it outside.
Really? I don't even know how you do it in the gym. It'd be, Mr. Vincettle's back there shaking his head. Absolutely not.
Oh,
So,
I never want to go back.
Yeah,
That was when we had 175 grads,
yeah.
and it was still packed.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't even, parents would just have to live stream it. Kids could be in the gym, but nobody's coming in.
So yeah, that's all I have for facilities. You guys have any other questions about? Great point you brought up. Though.
One thing I was gonna ask is, I know on some of the contracts that we did for the improvements, I think lighting was one, I know the fire, system was one, that there was money allotted for the tariffs, but because the tariffs are all suspended, I wanna make sure that we're holding on to that money. If the,
Currently that had written in, the fire alarm, he had 8% included in his contract number that we will get back, because those did not hit. The lighting, they got an order placed before the tariffs hit, so that was not, so yeah, you are correct, there's one out there.
I'll say because usually how they're written is an elevator, like where they're able to come back and reclaim costs and add, you know, basically add cost if tariffs increase their costs. But yeah, you're right. One of them was included.
And a shout out to the roofers at the high school. I go by at 7:30 at night and they're still out up on the roof working.
I don't know how they do it, they
I-
start at 5:30 in the morning, too.
Yeah, and that's impressive that their work ethic and getting it done.
All right.
Okay. Then we will move forward to discussion items, 7.01, high school office secure vestibule addition and renovation.
Yep, so they are actually, so if you want to scroll down to actually the design, you have to, should be right underneath there. It was on the Which version are you in? There you go, that right there. Okay, so basically they're at a point now where they're ready to potentially go out to bid, so Mr. Vinchattel's been working with them and kind of talking about, you know, like, how do we want the offices to flow, what do we want it to look like? It's kind of, what started off as, you know, can we punch a door in the wall, really turned into it needs to be an addition, and we knew this, that's why we put an addition in the bond, because we knew it was gonna have to be an addition of some sort. And when we talk about doing it right, you know, it was creating an opportunity to get back, so all students will exit and enter, not at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, but during the school day. There's also going to be an opportunity for visitors to come in at the same time. Moving our security and our administrative personnel to the front of the building so they can respond quicker and so they can identify through glass when people are approaching the building or coming into the building. And then expanding the nursing station, because right now there's no shower in the nurses station, and that's a need in there. So, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Vinchattel. So essentially what they're doing tonight is they're gonna make a recommendation to you based on the drawings that they have. And then there's nothing to approve. They want to get your feedback. And if everything seems like it's pretty decent, they're pretty close to being able to send it out to bid to see what they can get for bids back. And then you guys will review the bids on and have the hearing for the final approval on July 21st. So.
You covered it. No, just kidding. No,
I didn't talk about it. You got to talk about it.
First off, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you on this tonight. This is obviously, I'm very passionate about this project. It's a project that, and I was here for the initial renovation of the office and was an administrator at the time. And while I think we've made some major improvements, we all knew at that time it would have been nice to go one step further and bring that door into the office, and that's been a struggle for us since that point, and it continues to be a struggle. But Brent made a good comment. So it's not just about the in, it's also about the out, and I think that's something people forget about. Right now, though, we've got several doors, and while most of them are alarmed and armed in a way that you can't exit, we have some that are not, and it's obvious from a period to period. As we transition through the day, we have several kids that leave for Iowa Western, 50 to 60 in several periods. And so we've got kids just kind of leaving as the bell rings, and we've got to get a better handle on that. So it is mainly about the in and who's coming into the building, but we also want to control the traffic flow going out, because as those kids goes out, doors get left open, they hold their doors open for others. We are just a very polite community, which is amazing, but then we just do that. And I watch students do it for parents all the time. And I'm like, do you know who that is? Like, no, why? Was I not supposed to do that? And you feel bad because it is the polite thing to do, but obviously from a safety perspective. So I'm really excited about that. And as Brent also said, really big thanks to BCDM, Greg and Matthew. They've done an awesome job working with us. We've had a lot of conversations. They're probably irritated with me by now, but this is something that I have a lot of input and feedback to give on. So can you zoom in a little bit, Lisa, by chance? Perfect. All right. So a couple of things. I'm just going to highlight a couple of these pieces. Again, I mentioned flow and that idea behind, if you see that vestibule that comes in the bottom, I should have brought a laser pointer. Yep, the vestibule in there. So that's designed in a way that not only will students and visitors be able to come in and stop in the vestibule to be buzzed in, but as students leave through the Raptor visitor system that we have, they will actually sign out or check out as they walk out of the building, and then they will have a location for them to walk out, isolating them from the entry people. So again, doors don't get held open, people don't get let in that fashion or way, and just have a better idea of who's in the building from a fire perspective, from a lockdown perspective. We'll just know who exactly we're looking for. So I'm really excited about that piece of it and that flow there. The SRO office, that was something that we were pretty passionate about. Currently, our security personnel is kind of in the back. And it was due to where the cameras were accessed for years, and then obviously that's changed, but they've stayed there. So that idea of having that SRO or security personnel, whatever that looks like, being up front, being able to see through the glass, see the parking lot at all times, so that if they are in their office dealing with something, it's very visible. Having all the admin together is something, if you've been in our office, we're very separated, and that's not an ideal collaborative working space. So to have all the admin kind of up in one area is another safety concern that we've addressed here. The nurse's office, and while there's a lot of convenience to this is also a big safety increase for us. Right now, currently, to enter the nurse's office is through the back, up by that tech room. That's where you enter. And then for the student's perspective, they come in the back office door. So it is any student could come in at that point in time, enter the office and enter the nurse without any office personnel knowing that they're entering at all. Which is, we need to do a better job of being able to monitor that. So we're actually doing quite a few things in the nurse's office. Some passionate things I had. We do not have a shower in the building with the exception of the locker rooms. And while, yes, there are showers in the locker room, I will tell you that a student in that situation that needs a shower, the locker room is not where they're going to go. And what do? Do you shut down the entire locker room then and embarrass them to say they're going to go shower? So this is something we've needed for a long time, and I'm really excited to be able to add. Our nurse's office is tiny, if you've ever been in it. It's actually the smallest of all the nurse's office, K-12. And while we probably have the least amount of traffic because high school kids can generally do a lot for themselves, we're also a lot bigger, so not many fit in there. There is no private space whatsoever in our nurse's office, so when students come in and need to have something examined or they don't feel well, everyone else has to leave the office. And so it's just not an ideal scenario. So we're increasing the size of the office pretty significantly, adding that bathroom with a shower, and then there's a little cot room is kind of what it's called. Yep, this little room here, which is the current bathroom, that will turn into kind of a cot room / private viewing area. That way if a student needs to show a rash or something, we're not clearing the entire nurse's office and making everybody go sit by the techs in the main office why those particular things occur. So while those all seem very convenient and nice, I think there's actually a lot of safety and security tied to that nurse's piece of it. There is, we're experiencing a tremendous amount of growth, which is ideal. We're already out of office space at the high school. There's a lot of people who share offices, and we make it work. But there are a lot of times when maybe we are working through a situation and we're putting kids in conference rooms, or we're putting kids in the nurse's office, and sometimes we walk them over to counseling. So we are at a point now where we've grown, and so this will actually add some additional office space. We will already fill it, but even keeping some growth in mind. Also adds a conference space. We have one conference room in the main office now, and it is booked solid all the time. And so there are several times when, and not in a bad way, but I'll have parent meetings with entire families in my office, and we squeeze in there because we're running out of conference space. So this will actually add a conference room as well as some additional office space. As far as design goes, again, BCDM has been amazing, and they've worked with me. One thing I'm really excited about, and this is kind of silly, but our office will finally kind of match the design of our building. It's going to kind of flow with it will flow with the auditorium design, which is how we are renovating the current common space. So it's all going to feel like one space instead of multiple different spaces. There's some other things that have been really nice to think through, and some of that is, Lisa, will you go to the next one? And I'll let Greg go through actually the details of all this. I'm just here to kind of talk about the whys behind some of the things. But you can see that front entry is a lot of glass right there. And that was kind of a conversation we had, not only for the people in the office to be able to see out and see what's happening and coming into the front of the building, but it makes a clear statement of where our entry is. It makes it really obvious, and I guess I kind of compared it to like any storefront that you walk up to, a Kohl's or anything. It's glass where you walk in. So I think it really has a nice impact. I think it looks nice and has a nice impact on people as they walk up and they know exactly where to go. And if Lisa actually goes up to the first one and zooms out a little bit, you'll see on the right-hand side, this is kind of the design of the front walk-up entry, and they came to us and said, hey, we got an idea. What if we put kind of a bed, like a garden bed, and we're actually discussing moving the bell
back to that point from a maintenance standpoint, so it's not where we try to remove the snow from. But you'll see kind of this little bed right there, and the idea behind that is it's going to be concrete seating with some vegetation. But the nice thing there is, as anyone walks up to the building or the space, you're forced at that point then to look up and see where am I going, and so you're not forced right into those main doors that everybody's used to going, but it kind of naturally forces you to look and realize, oh, I'm supposed to enter at this point. Because, we've got a lot of people that have entered through those main doors for a long time. So just trying to interrupt that flow a little bit to get them to stop and think about where to go. And go ahead and click on that, Lisa. You'll see a nice rendering of kind of what something like that could look like. And again, with the idea of interrupting your flow as you walk in and kind of forcing you to that separate entry point. Go ahead.
The pavement color, is that gonna be something that we're gonna do that kind of has a path to it?
So it was discussed as an idea to kind of flow everybody to that point as well. We haven't gotten any, there was a comment made, a good concern brought up about the fact that requires a lot of maintenance when you stain concrete or stamp it in a different way. So we haven't got a chance to actually think through the detail of that piece yet.
I think the intent is that it's the same pavement as everywhere else, but it maybe has a different jointing pattern that kind of directs you to that pattern. So no different maintenance needs to it.
Perfect.
They talked about doing it like in a diamond pattern.
Yeah,
And the bad part about the more joints you put in, the more salt brine gets down in there, and the more concrete maintenance it's gonna require.
yeah.
So maybe it's a 4x4 instead of an 8x8, but nothing small. But yeah, it's shown as darker here purely for
Okay.
presentation to show you a difference here tonight.
But if you did do that darker, what would be the maintenance on that? If you had a darker,
Any
Cement.
colored concrete has to be resealed at least every 5 years if you go with the right product. Most water-based products are gonna reseal it every year. And any color that you go with is gonna fade out within a year and a half.
And then any patching that you would have would be real tough to match to that as well. Yeah.
where I work, they have stripes and everything, and so that's why I was wondering, because they haven't done anything to it in 5 years, so I didn't know if that was any issue, or what
I
the
think you
issue
could
was.
do like a border of, like some sort of a sitting way type of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't do any borders or anything, I just thought if you had a darker gray cement, that really isn't,
Well,
maintenance and
okay.
things like that.
So
It just-
if you look at that picture up there, where the smaller rectangles are, well, what if you did a strip of color up there?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you're still
wouldn't.
gonna have the maintenance.
Yeah, I wouldn't,
but a
because
lot-
that's what ours is strips. And it's, it used to be white, and they didn't want to wait for white, so then they turned around and did more of a black, but then they did more later, which was more of a gray. And they could have waited for the white, because by the time they got to it and actually did it, it was like a year and a half later. So no, I didn't know if there was, what the issue would be with going with just a darker gray. It wouldn't be black, it'd just be a little bit darker.
What-
Because I like the idea
Yeah.
of a focus to go to.
What would be the difference between, what would be more maintenance? Having smaller joint cuts, or you know what I'm saying? Like if you did that, or having just a different color? Because to Director
you're-
Sturm's
you're-
thought is
you're
getting all that
looking at-
salt down in there.
You're looking at two different problems. The color you have to reseal, so that's your maintenance on that part.
Yeah.
The, any solid joints or cuts, that's where you deal with a lot of, like I said, you're throwing down a lot of salt
Yeah.
on all of our concrete. And,
Well, even looking at the
Any-
sidewalks right now, right where they
Yep.
come together, they're all chunks out.
absolutely.
But I don't remember if we've even have we ever redone the high school, the walkway in?
I
There's
doubt
there's
that
been, there's
any-
been sections that have been
Yeah.
grinded down or replaced,
Yeah, I
but
was gonna say,
Yeah.
it's
I
pretty
will-
patchworked.
But otherwise, it's 25, 30
Yeah.
years, you know?
I will say
And at
that
that point, we have to have it redone.
there's probably not any commercial building or property in this area that pays for concrete ceiling just because of the cost of it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And
You
this
can,
is-
you can help eliminate some of the cost of the jointing as long as you put, there's a product called, what is it? Is it MP1? It's basically where you crack fill, right? Is that the name of it?
There's many products,
Um,
essentially you have to.
But basically you're caulking, you're filling every joint with caulk. And that will help for a while. But that's one product that kind of helps eliminate that
And
problem.
I think there's a way to do it too, just directionally having them cut different, I don't think we were thinking that it'd be like a lot of additional jointing by any means, but yeah.
Or, you know, just maybe taking the joints and, like you said, at a 45-degree angle, different than, just to, some sort of eye-catching something. Doesn't, I'm not, you know, I don't need a landing strip. But,
Do you want it lit too? Should we put like?
yeah, and little arrows and.
Yeah, can you put lights on the ground? I've seen that, that's cool.
Yeah.
And just to make sure that
You can
whatever
do
it is
glow
that
in the
people are
dark.
doing,
Nice.
that we use the correct product on it for salting. I know that the loading dock on the auditorium has bit the dust already, and just want to make sure that we're putting down the right product for whatever it is we're putting on the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, they've gone to sweeping a lot, which has been significant. And something as simple as moving that bell, which seems silly, but moving it back to that area where it's not in the middle of snow removal makes a huge impact on how we get rid of the whatever
Would it
ice
be
snow is on
in,
that.
like, inside the?
That's kind of, they're gonna, I think, draw up some renderings for us on it. We discussed it. It was my fault. I knew about it. I think it was the day of our district day, and then I forgot about the conversation, and then I called Greg. I was like, oh yeah, I screwed up. Forgot to tell you this. So that was on me. I called him, when did I call you Thursday last week? And I was like, I totally forgot to call you last Monday.
Yeah, if you go to the first one, Dr. Hartman, and zoom in on that little rhombus that's in the middle there, that's where the bell would get moved back to and just be reseated, reseated there. So that way that whole front area, we can push snow and not have a pillar in the snow. And then again, it's kind of out of the way, it's make it a focal point, but.
And it probably, I mean, obviously we'll keep the plaque with the board
Uh-huh.
member's name on it. It probably will be a little smaller. It's quite massive. The structure is for the size of the bell, to be honest, it's a little out of proportion. So we've talked a little bit about maybe even lowering it a little bit so it's just more presentable as people walk in.
It's been stolen before, so that's probably the reason why,
Multiple.
Okay.
probably.
The
but I
bell or
don't
the
know.
pedestal?
The bell.
Yeah, I'm talking about the pedestal. I think the pedestal's a little bit large.
Right, but I
for-
think it's up there
Oh,
and big.
okay.
So.
So it's more difficult to get.
It doesn't end up
Okay.
in the Missouri River and things
Okay,
like
well,
that.
maybe we need to think through that then. I guess that wasn't, can we electrify? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like you said, there's cameras now, which at that time, we
Didn't
didn't
have
have
them,
cameras.
right.
Yeah, we do have some pretty good cameras there. You want to jump to the third one, Lisa, please? So I kind of had mentioned design. We're very happy, actually. I think they came up with far greater than what we thought was going to happen, but they've defined the space a little bit here with the carpet and that kind of overhang. Don't worry, we've discussed the blue in quite detail. It won't look as royal as it does in the rendering, but the designers shared some, yeah, just the projector. But no, the designer's very aware of our, in fact, I've even shared my colors with her. She's probably very annoyed by that. But I said, here are the blues and the grays that we're going to use in the rest of the building, and they've incorporated them well. I do like the carpet change there to kind of define the space. And again, and what you're not seeing here is that there's a transient window within that vestibule where actually guests will buzz in before they ever get to this point. And then once they're in this point, to get into the building, there'll be the door that they enter into the building will also be a locked buzz door. So I'm excited about that. They're actually reusing several of the cabinetry that we actually put in because it's not that old.
Right.
So we will be reusing the desks that the two office ladies have now, the big L desks, and several of the cabinets that can be reutilized will be reutilized as much as possible there. But we are actually going to be adding some storage, which is always needed. And the flow and design, I think we're really, really very happy with. So, yeah.
Will, the SRO's office I see faces the vestibule. Is that gonna be a window facing the vestibule? Like, so will he have glass?
Yeah, so it actually is a big, if you zoom way and you see that window right there. That particular window is not a transaction window though, and the point there is the SRO generally isn't the person letting people in.
No, I think that we have a line of sight.
Yes,
into the
yes.
vestibule.
Yep, line of
Not
sight,
the front
both,
window.
our goal there was both to the front of the building, parking lot, vestibule, and that's a lot of the reason why that whole exterior is glass, is to keep as much, limit the obstructions as much as possible. So yes, they will have much better views than we have now, for sure.
I couldn't see it as well. I
Yeah,
couldn't see
you
it
can
as
zoom
well,
in.
But on this one, it's,
They'll be in a fishbowl.
Yeah.
So how do you plan on keeping the entrance and exit people
Separate. We've talked a lot about that, and we've kind of concluded at this point in time, we're going to try a portable, what are they called?
The ribbons?
Yeah,
It's not a ribbon, it's like a glass partition barrier to separate the aisles.
but we don't want to put, like, we talked about
Like a
and have
stanchion.
discussed like a full wall,
Yeah.
but you really limit your, what they call queuing space in that vestibule. So the more, physical structures you build from floor to ceiling, then you almost have to double the size of the vestibule at that point to be able to have enough queuing for people to come into that point, because you're going to have students coming in during, lots of times, because some of our kids come right when the bell rings and they've got it timed perfectly because they know, and we're all atomic, so they've got it on their watches, they know right when to walk in. Others will come in a little bit early, so we have this queuing problem that we're going to have. And in addition to that, if a parent comes around that time or a guest comes around that time, we need that space. So that's why there's no permanent structure that goes there. So that was kind of our idea. Yes, we've talked, that's actually a discussion we've had a lot. They changed the door structure for us because originally it was one big double door. And again, we have this, we're just such kind people and we hold the door open for everybody.
Rick,
And
am I correct in the fact that the doors on the bottom are how you see the exit doors?
Yep.
And there's no pull handles, so you can't open that door.
So, yeah, when you come in, you'll actually only be allowed to come in on the upper door so that you're
On the same
physically
side as
walking
the
along the
transaction
transaction window there. That's what'll unlock and let you into the building. Then as the students are checking out, those stations will be down along the other one, kind of forming that natural traffic flow. As Joe mentioned, we split those doors apart to try to kind of create a couple different lines there. And we also kind of elongated that vestibule. We took a visit to another school, tried to see how things were working during passing periods, and really elongated that to avoid that opening the door and letting somebody in. To have that distance between that interior and exterior set of doors kind of helps limit that.
Is check-in and say students leave early, sign out, is that all going to occur through the Raptor system, or do you still have paper sign-out forms?
Yeah, so no, our goal will be to be all electronic. So right now, what we tell kids is if you have a unique schedule, so something that's not 1 through 6, then you are welcome on a daily basis to come and go. Like, you do not have to check in so if I get first and second hour, I'm at Iowa Western, and I'm coming to Lewis Central third hour, we don't have them sign in every third hour. That's just really not even, doesn't make sense. So, but with this system, with how quick it is and the fact that they can take their badges and just, boom, actually it's on their phone. They can have a printed one, but 90% of the kids, just 99% of the kids want them on their phone. And so they can just take their phone and they pull it up and it's a digital ID and it scans it and they just go in and out that way. That's practical. Like, we can handle that. having people sign in on paper every time they leave is not it's just, we wouldn't be able to handle the traffic of that. Because again, there are certain periods of the day we counted, there were over 65 kids that are coming in, just leaving because they're done from that period and they're headed off to the, whatever it may be, Zoo Academy, Iowa Western, done for the day.
Well, I'm just thinking if we have an event, then we have an accurate count of who's in the
Yes.
building at one time.
Yes,
So-
that'll be amazing. That's not something we've ever really had to that.
Well,
We know who's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So we can pull that at any time and say it's third hour. These are the kids that are supposed to be here. These kids have been off campus since, 10:05. But to be able to actually see the log of when they exited the building and entered the building, I think it will be very nice.
Good.
So, and that Raptor system allows us to do that, along with the flow of how this has been set up, are gonna allow us to be able to obtain that, so, yeah.
So every student will have a badge?
Yep, yeah, and again, when we talk to I don't know if we can say the district we visited, but, when that district is, larger than us by about 600 kids, 700 kids, and they have a modular block schedule, which is a ton of movement. Kids are coming and going all the time. And the principal said he prints maybe 2 or 3 a year of actual physical IDs because kids don't have a cell phone or don't want to do it on their cell phone, but they could use their Chromebook, they can use their cell phone, and it's an app that they download, and we obviously do all the back end of it, and then they sign in, and that's their digital ID. It's also electronic, so you can't screenshot it. So when you actually look at the ID, there's movement within the ID so that people aren't screenshotting and sharing and doing all those fun things, but.
Wasn't the Raptor the one that tracked badges throughout the school to keep, that way, let's say something happened at 10:05, it knew which students were in that classroom?
Not necessarily. So what the badges that Mr. Vinchettel's talking about, they'll just, it's a QR code. So,
Yeah.
so they'll either have it's either have a badge, or a lot of the kids, like when we went to West Side High School to look at them, they all had it on their phone. So they had the QR code on their phone. So they would pull it up on their phone and scan in. And then the person sitting behind the counter can see who scanned in, see their picture, they scanned in at this time, they need to pass, don't need to pass. The Raptor system that with the badges, that'll be for all staff members. And yes, they do triangulate to whoever pushes the button. It won't tell you how many kids are in the class.
Are not,
Students will not get that badge.
Triangulated or whatever.
No, the students will not get that badge. The students will simply have either a badge we
Right.
give them with the QR code that is unique to their personal identifier that they'll be able to code in and code out of the school, or they'll have it on their phones and they can code in, code out with the QR code. So it's just a better way for us to track, because right now, if you're in the school,
yeah,
they
I agree,
they
you
walk
know.
out, walk in.
who's in and who's out.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the capabilities were there, that it knows that Johnny is in this class, and should something happen, we know that Johnny was in this class along with 30 other kids.
No, we don't have, I don't think that there's, there probably is a technology out there.
Well,
I can't
actually,
imagine
there's
what
some
that costs.
legality with that, because we asked about that several years ago, and there's some legality with actually tracking students
Tracking
at that
students,
level, and their whereabouts at that level, because they had RFID ones out a while that we looked, and and I don't, maybe laws have changed since then, but at that point in time, you couldn't get that granular with tracking
Yeah,
there.
there's one of the systems we looked at, which was the Centegix, not Raptor. They had a badge for visitors that you would give the visitor a badge, and it would track the visitor at all time, but they would have to sign a disclaimer saying, yes, they knew they were carrying this badge at all time, it was gonna be tracking them at all time, but it would not be something that would be popular for staff. Staff don't like to feel like they're being tracked at all times. The staff one will only track them if there's an emergency and they push the button on their badge, and then it will say, staff members here, for the administrative body to
Right.
find them. Yeah.
Can you just really quick walk through then the plan for implementing or building this out? Because I believe you said it's gonna be 2 phases. The exterior phase can start first, and then next summer we can do the interior and kind of blend it in together.
So if this is approved, as was mentioned earlier, we'd be able to get it out for bid here pretty soon to be able to come back to you towards the end of July. I think that would give a contractor the opportunity to begin building the addition outside in the fall and kind of be done with that by summer of 26, so that the interior of that could be done over that summer and tie that in. Yep. There's maybe a couple different, Joe's covered pretty much everything, but a couple other things I wanted to mention. One, while we're looking at the exterior rendering here, the addition's really all materials that are on the building right now. That brick, that kind of tannish yellow brick is the same, the majority of the brick on your building is right now. The windows would be the same aluminum system and color, and the top of that is the same kind of metal panel that you have over the existing entrance. It just looks a little darker in this view than over the entrance on the left, just because it's new and that's existing in the rendering. Yep. The other thing I'd say, if we could go back to the site plan, please. From a traffic flow standpoint, Joe mentioned kind of having that landscaping island in the middle to, for the visitors parking, that deters you from going to the original main entrance. And as we talk through the paving, jointing, how we get people to go towards that new entrance during the day. But we are maintaining that current sidewalk path directly to that entrance from the student parking lot. So that first rush in the morning, those students are able to use all those doors and get in like they are now.
Yeah, our mornings and afternoons will look very similar to what they are now. We're not expecting those people to go through the office. That would be crazy. But there was shouldn't ignore, there was quite a bit of discussion about the utilization of all these spaces and whether or not an addition needed to be added or not. So that was very well thought through, and a lot of conversations about that front entryway. I will tell you, after we kind of looked through some options, and they came up with some great options as far as very creative ways to utilize that, but ultimately in the end it completely cut our flow down through our building. It completely changed the look of our building. It took away all the trophy cases that we utilized for the fine arts, the student clubs. It was a very skinny and long space, and really the admin were so far away from the office staff that it wasn't even practical. Not that we ever have an angry parent ever walk in the office, but it just put everybody in a really bad spot, because anything happening up front, we were so far away from all of it. So that was considered as a way, could we utilize that interior space that already exists, and well thought out, but in the end it just really wasn't a very practical solution, and we would have spent a similar amount of money, and we just wouldn't have gained that much. We're gaining a lot here. We're gaining the ability to grow. We're gaining some office space and conference space. That nurse's office needs a significant amount of work. So I just think there's a lot of pluses to just adding, even though we're not bumping out too far. And I really give them credit, because one of the major concerns we had is, will it look good? Like, how are you going to make this look by adding this vestibule on? And I've been very impressed with how they've mimicked the lines and the angles of the building and the materials, and it really actually looks pretty darn sharp in the rendering. So I think it's going to look really great when it's all done.
I mean, I will say, I went and walked through it and then talked to a few. What's the consensus of everybody that works in there? I mean, are they happy with this plan?
Oh, they're over the moon. And I've included them, and I mean, yes, I've talked to the admin team, but mostly the office ladies and the nurses and Amanda Clanton.
Because I mean, ultimately, they're the ones that.
Yes, yep, they are really, they're excited about the flow. They're really excited. It's, when you're already in a position and you're doing the day-to-day, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but when we go to hire people for that, especially that front desk, you wouldn't believe the amount of angst, and I don't blame them, but there's a lot of angst to like, well, wait, so you're gonna set me where? And I'm the first line to what? So, and I think the current staff, the anxiety comes too with the fact that like they are monitoring that door. So everybody's got 2 screens, and we have like 5 video cameras on that vestibule. So I'm not saying it's not safe, because we are, like every single office person in there has an entire monitor dedicated to multiple camera views of that front door. But in the end, if someone really chose to run, they're gonna run. And it makes our staff anxious, because they just feel very responsible and obligated to watch that and monitor at all times. They're so relieved at the idea that we will have a space right within the office that people will be stopped. There'll be a process. They'll be able to move to the next spot, still stopped, still a process before they even get into the building. So there's really, two very clear points of lockdown before they ever could enter into the building at this point. So it's just we have included the office staff a tremendous amount. They love the conversations around carpet and colors and all that, but they've been very much a part of the flow, and we've taken their feedback and utilized it as much as possible. And we've moved some stuff around because of it. So that whole little work desk that happened, so right behind the two L-shaped desks, that was they were like, hey, we need more workspace right here. So that was an example of where the architects came in and said, okay, we'll give you more workspace right there. So yeah, they've very much been a part of it. Amanda and Jamie Lou Sibes is our health associate, and then Amanda Clanton is the district nurse. They gave a ton of input on the nurse's office. Things we don't think about, like lockable space for medication. They wanted an ice machine really bad because kids need ice all the time. They're always hurt, and we make cubed ice. So everybody gets like 4 ice cubes. And it's silly. Like, no, put an ice machine in so that the people can have bagged ice and be able to deal with an injury. The separate viewing space was real big for them. That was not something that was on my mind. And they're like, we need a space to be able to take a student back and do some conversations and viewing without clearing the entire nurse's office. So yes, they gave us a lot of feedback on all those pieces. Good question.
I walked through the nurse's office, I couldn't believe.
I know,
I'm like, holy mackerel.
It's
Closet,
ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's
nurse's
tiny.
closet.
Yeah, it's more of a closet.
Can you talk real quick, pricing estimates, kind of the ballpark that you're in with right now?
Yep. We're probably at about 1,300 square foot for the addition, about 2,400 for what's shown blue as renovation. That's going to be about $1.5 million for that right now. The kind of courtyard entry area is not included in that. That kind of got pulled out of the parking lot project, and I think that's part of where that came in low, and there's budget to cover that out of that, is my understanding. So it's kind of tracking right in that $1.5 million range. Now we'll do what we can to bring in as many contractors, get some interest in the bidding process as well to get a good competitive bidding atmosphere.
Is it this school year where you're gonna cease allowing them to come in the weight room back door at the beginning of the day?
No, we never will.
You never
They'll,
will?
yeah, they can
I
still
thought
come in that door.
was-
No, we'll still continue to have the 3 entry points in
Okay.
the mornings. Again, and it's always tough for us because while I don't want kids in the parking lot hanging out, our commons is only so big, and we already have about 500 to 600 kids in the commons every single morning. And if they ever counted the ratio of staff members to students, we'd be in trouble. But so they time it. The majority of the kids will time that, and they'll just wait. And then as soon as they know, they'll all come funneling in at once. And it actually works out well because by the time you get all your bus riders and drop-offs in there, it almost fills the commons as it is. And it's standing room only. And so if we required every kid that was, in the parking lot to get their butts in we wouldn't have room. So it works out well, and so that requires us to have 3 entry points kind of all at once, needing to handle that traffic in the mornings. So, good question though. No, so that won't cease. It'll be exiting. I think with this new update with the security piece and Genetech and the door alarms, we're going to be able to have sensors in a way that those sensors will go off if a door is open unless a badge is used. And then that would then alert us to say like, hey, students leaving, and we can follow up. We had that problem years ago before, because I think there's almost 68 doors somewhere in there. And for a long time, we didn't have any kind of alarms on anything, and we would lose kids out every door. And so we finally went through and put all those I call them dummy alarms, but because they don't connect to anything, but they go off and make a really loud noise if you leave. And so that allows us then to follow up and watch cameras. And we cleaned that up pretty quick once we had that accountability.
Yeah, and door access is gonna be next summer for Titan Hill Middle School, so they'll get alerts on all of their doors, so any door opens, any exterior door opens in the building, and Mr. Vinchat will get a notification, so that'll kind of all be tied into the final piece of this as well.
And this is great. I know we've tried over the years to fix it. And you know, the last one was getting rid of the conference room, bringing it up and everything, but this will actually fix it. But you only have so much money, and we did the best that we could.
We did. And
Yeah.
we greatly improved, because there's a time when we didn't even have a line of sight to the door. We couldn't even
Correct.
see the front door from the office.
Right,
So
right.
we've made great improvements.
Right.
And they've all actually will benefit this in the end, so.
Well, like for instance, right now, we currently have the video intercom system on all of our front entry doors. So you have to buzz in, they can talk to you, video conferencing, like
Right.
that's all currently available. You know, another safety feature I don't think we touched on is on this picture right here. You'll see one of the reasons for the raised garden beds versus the standard garden beds that you see now is because it also provides some protection in the form of ballards. You know, that's one of the
Yes.
things that was recommended in our safety inspection was that we install ballards. Ballards are unsightly. Like
Yeah.
they're just kind of, if we're going to redo the entryway anyway, let's make it a usable space. So you put up, you know,
And then
big
you-
old blocks for kids can sit on
Yeah.
before
And you
school,
still,
after
with the
school.
ballards, you still have to, they're in the way of snow removal.
They're in the way of snow
and
removal, yeah.
everything, so, yeah.
So you create garden beds and you put up these things and it creates, you know, now will it be 100% foolproof? Now, I mean, no matter what you do, if people want to find, if there's a will, there's a way. They're
Yeah.
gonna drive around them, drive through them, drive over them. So, but it's better than what we have now. Right now we have we have trees and we have the bell stand.
Yeah.
Like that's what we have. So trees will be gone. If you notice, there's a lot of shrubbery that's going to be lost to this, but
And that really helps line of sight from a security standpoint as
Yeah.
well.
and maintenance. Trees and plants are beautiful when they're maintained.
Yeah,
Take a lot of work though.
yeah.
So
Are you still looking at relocating the trees?
possibly, I still haven't got a bid on that yet, but I did talk to Titan Hill today. They would take trees. They love trees on their playground. So
They're beautiful trees.
yeah,
They really are. They're
it just depends on how much it costs to spade a tree.
Might
Maybe has
cost more to move
a
it.
tree spade out there and wants to give us a deal.
Yeah.
Give us a phone call. So
So, yeah. I'm gonna buy a pair of nice earplugs for the fall. I feel there'll be a lot of construction outside my window.
Yeah.
No, it'll
do
be
we
worth it.
know, one of the things that I'm not sure if we touched on was, do we know, is the glass between the receptionist and the SRO, is that reinforced glass?
Yeah,
How does that?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I think everything within that vestibule area would be kind of a safety glass,
Okay.
right? So,
And I've had some pretty detailed discussions with office staff about that. They feel very comfortable with I think it was a 2-minute, basically it's kind of like a 2-minute barrier that if they sat there and shot at it forever or banged on it forever, like that would at least give you some time to, 2 minutes to get
Yeah.
in a different location and out. So they
Look at
felt
you.
very comfortable with that idea.
We'll get you one of those carts that you can have your laptop and then you
Yes.
can be walking around the
Yes.
building
It's
and
actually a great excuse for me to just not be.
then
in
you
my-
won't be sitting in your office
Yes,
with the
100%.
noise.
Do you guys have, one of the reasons I asked them to present today is because even though you're not necessarily voting, the vote's going to come on the 21st, and the vote's going to be, you know, as a result of the bids and everything else. Is there anything about this plan that you want them to finalize before they send out to bids? This is more of a feedback, kind of a last opportunity. Otherwise, we'll see what this plan brings as far as bids go. So,
I think if you've got the traffic flow, how they're going, which way they're going out, which way they're coming in, that you're not gonna be stuck at one door and then a door here. I mean, as long as you have that, I think that'll be good. And then with the nurse's office, I thought, you know, if they have high tables, if there's a high table in there for, kids that have disabilities and that they would have something to, you know, be able to lay on to get cleaned up and things like that. That would be, because state of Iowa, that was one of the things in rest areas, that they wanted some type of table. And that was for kids that are good size, so.
And we actually have a we have a defined space, with a restroom, with a high table and cleaning supplies.
Perfect.
In a different location, but that's a good, I mean, that's not something I had thought about.
Yeah,
But that is, yeah, but we have that currently on site,
right,
so.
right.
Yeah. And I've had the opportunity to talk to several board members, especially as they've come and walked the building. I've been pretty excited about this, and so I've shared a lot of this with some of you. So a lot of this wasn't new to some of you, but it's been a great process. Looking forward to it all.
Thank you.
Seems well thought out and planned.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things I will point out too, so we did have, BCDM did put in a bid to do be the architect for the middle school renovations, as well as another company called CMBA. We had interviews with them last week, with the, board ad hoc facility committee, and, we did decided to go, with BCDM, so we will have an opportunity for you to review, and a letter of agreement. It's gonna be a basic one, until we know the scope. It's gonna take a while to develop scope, so it's hard to develop pricing up front. So we're gonna do something a little bit unique, where essentially it's kinda like what we did at Shive Hattery before, where the contract will include almost like an hourly wage, for them to do their work, until we have a scope, and then all of the invoices that will have been invoiced up to that point will then apply to the overall scope of the project. So kind of protects them from, if we decide we're doing nothing at the middle school, they still get compensated for their time, so. But that'll be, we'll have to do a special board meeting before July 21st, with there's several different agenda items that we need to cover, that just can't wait for the 21st, but yet we didn't have before this meeting, so we'll touch base on those. So excited to continue to potentially work with these guys and see what they can come up with. This was just a teaser. We'll see what the middle school, the middle school renovation. I'm super interested in that. It'll be like a Netflix special.
The bar has been set, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Did you give them the feedback and the concerns about the plans that they had presented, though?
Not necessarily, not yet, no. When we get into conversations with them about that in more detail. So that was more or less picking the architect, and not any plans
Not
they
the
brought.
plans,
Any
yeah.
plans they brought were just, just to show their
Off the cuff.
range of options. So they'll start fresh when we start really diving into it, so.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
No.
There's no vote or anything?
Nope, there's no vote. You guys feel free to go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna blame
Unless you want to
Brett.
wait for the rain to slow down a little bit, I think.
I wanna blame Brett for, thanks for cursing us there, Mr. Wallace. It was dry prior to your rain comments, so,
That's what I was thinking, too.
yeah.
Dust out, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
We talked about a little rain, and it's like pouring rain.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's awesome, sweet. Maybe wants to go play in the mud puddles after this.
Severe thunderstorm warning till 8:30.
Oh,
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
Don't worry, we'll be here well beyond 8:30, so.
My alarm keeps going off.
All right, we will move forward to 7.02, the BVU Memo of Understanding.
This is just an agreement with Buena University that allows them to send us student interns, student teachers when they have them. So just annual agreement.
I'm just curious, with all these contracts, how many student teachers do we typically get per year? Do we get quite a bit, or do we?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we usually have maybe at least one or two at each building. I'll tell you, we probably don't get as many as we used to, because some of the larger schools are now paying. Like, I know,
Okay.
we don't pay anything for you to student teach here. But my former mentee, he and his wife are student teaching in OPS, and I think they're making like $9,500 student teaching, Yeah, just student teaching. And,
Allows it yet, right?
Well, Iowa does allow it. There's nothing that restricts it, but we don't pay anything for student teachers. So on the flip side, we don't really hire a lot of new teachers. But the majority of teachers we end up hiring are seasoned teachers that are looking to maybe get a position in a metro area school that's not necessarily a large school, so they come, so we don't hire a lot of brand new people, but I love giving students the opportunity if they want to come and participate, so. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and then we've also had mid-year, someone who has student taught here is like, hey,
Yeah,
come on in.
for
So-
sure, absolutely,
So
yeah.
it is good to have.
I love having it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Mr. Vinchattle back there pointing to himself.
Hired me mid-year after I student taught.
Uh-huh.
They still discuss the decision to this day. What a great one it was, so.
All right, any other questions, comments on the memo of understanding? Okay, we will go to 7.03, 2025-26 district student fees.
On this one, I'll kind of let Andrea talk about it a little bit. The only one that's changed on here was our lunch fees. So the state sets guidelines that we have to follow as far as what we need to charge for lunch fees, and we don't have a whole lot of say over it. We have a little bit of flexibility, but I'll let Andrea talk about what those have changed to.
Yes, so for breakfast and for lunch for fully paid, all of those are increasing by 10 cents for the students. And then the adult charge had to go to $5, so that was a 15-cent increase. One other thing is the high school yearbook went to $70. It was at $68, but that was a Johnston's increase on there, so that one is $70 instead of $68 as it was originally in the packet. And then the Chromebook, those are just updated to the actual replacement costs that we have each year based on what our Chromebook renewals are. But otherwise, all of the other fees are staying the same for the textbook and technology fees, and then the activity ticket fee as well is still at the $10.
So the Chromebook renewal fee actually went down because we got a heck of a price on Chromebooks. So about $100, so.
Mhm.
Any questions, comments? Okay, then we will move on to 7.04, medical leave pool policy, second reading.
So this is second reading. This is essentially the same policy that we did last time. Just didn't know if you guys had any additional updates on that. No.
I didn't.
So this would it would enact it as of, this school year. So we would kind of throw it out there and people can sign up for it as they would like, so.
Any other questions, comments? 7.05, student personal electronic use policy, first reading.
So this one's on here. There's actually an approval option for you guys because this was required as part of state changes to state mandates. I kind of I'm going to leave it up to you guys to determine whether or not you guys want to think on this one. This was the recommendation from IASB. We took IASB's recommendation. We took the State Department of Ed's recommendation, and then we met as an administrative team and we discussed, what could we enforce? What could we, essentially what the law calls for is that there are no student devices allowed in instructional areas. So during instructional time. Well, what does that mean? What is an instructional area? That could be really up to, interpretation, and the whole point of this policy is to remove interpretation and make it clean cut. So what we had discussed was saying that, really, and when you talk about student electronic devices, they call it the cell phone policy, but it's not just cell phones. It's any earbuds, headphones, supposed to be including watches, and so there's some language in here that basically states that if you have a watch on, you're not to use the watch as an electronic device. You can tell time on it, but it's not to give you any notifications. You're not to send texts on it, that kind of stuff. You can wear it, it's fine. Kind of like the cell phones we talked about. It's going to be really hard to tell you to leave your cell phone in the hallway. However, you shouldn't be pulling it out during class. If you have it in your bag, if you have it on you, you shouldn't be pulling it out during class at all. So classrooms is really where we drew the line, and really anywhere where instruction could be held. So during the school day, so gymnasiums, weight room, classrooms, office areas, etc. All of those are considered off limits during the school day. That's from bell to bell. Where you can have it, it was easier to say where you could have it. You can have it in the hallways between class. It's a 4-minute time period that you can check your messages. You can still communicate with your parents if needed, or during lunch period. You can have it out during the lunch period. So what's been really hard through our discussion is talking about, things have changed not only for students but for parents as well. To tell parents you need to contact the office to talk to your kid is probably never going to work again, because once you have access to your kid immediately with a cell phone, it's really hard to get parents to go back and do it any other way. Some people say that's not hard at all. It's the way how we used to do it. I get it, but for those of us that have to maintain and enforce the rules, parents are habitual violators, because they're the ones. We'll have kids take out their phone during class. I mean, I just had a kid. I was walking through a shop class and a kid was on his phone. I said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm talking to my mom." And I'm like, "Tell her you can't call you right now. You're during class." He's like, "Well," so anyway, it's just kind of funny. Like, it's not just the students, it's parents. Like, and I'm a parent, and we're issues. Like, that's the reality of it. We as parents are issues, and so we need to also curb what our expectation is for immediate correspondence with our children. And so, by stating that they can have it between class periods or lunch, we're still giving parents an option to communicate with their students. But any other time, their electronic devices are not to be had. So some of the policies went as far to say, and this is just, I'm going to throw this out there because people might say, wow, that's pretty extreme. Well, the original policies that came out even included athletic and activity events at the school for us not to allow cell phones. And I said, well, I am not trying to monitor cell phones at a football game. Like, that is not going to happen, like, holy moly. And so we just said, where is it really? So starting this year, and this will primarily affect, we do have it written in 2 different areas. For middle school, high school, they can have their cell phones only during passing periods and only during lunch. For the elementary, they can't have them at all during the school day. They can have them before school and they can have them after school, because we have kids that ride the bus and the parents like to follow them on their phone and make sure that they arrived at school and that they've arrived at home. And I totally understand that. One of the other things that's in here is some of the recommendations for if a cell phone is out during class time. It is the responsibility of all staff members, not just administrative staff members, but all staff members, to enforce this policy. So if I, as a staff member, see a cell phone out during a class period, or they have a headphone in, it is my responsibility to ask them to put it away. Now, how they respond will determine whether or not what I do next. If they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I put it away," that's fine. If they say, "No, I'm not going to put it away," and the teacher feels comfortable asking them again and says, "Please put your cell phone away, or I will need to contact administration," and they put it away, that's fine too. The teacher can have individual consequences for that. Where the main consequence will come in is if a teacher says, "I need you to put your cell phone away," and now I've done this 2 or 3 different times, they can require the student to then take their phone to the office. "I need you to put your phone in the office. It'll remain in the office till the end of the day," which means you don't get it during passing periods, you don't get it during lunch. If a student adamantly refuses to put their phone away or to bring it down to the office, it is no longer treated as a cell phone or an electronic use offense. It is now treated as insubordination. And insubordination almost always results in an automatic suspension. And so that's where this really kicks in, is if a student is going to be compliant and they pulled it out because it dinged in their pocket and I forgot to turn it off, and then we're going to be flexible with them. We're going to work with students. If you're a habitual violator, you'll probably end up turning your phone into the office on a regular basis, as long as you do that every time. But if you're really going to argue with staff members, we're not having our staff members deal with that. The staff members are not, they need to teach. They need to teach, and they need to help kids become productive citizens, and they're not going to sit and get in power struggles over electronic device. What will happen then is if I tell Mr. Sturm, you need to put your phone away, and Mr. Sturm's like, no, I'm not gonna put my phone away, or I'm not, and I'll be like, that's fine, now you have to take it to the office, and he says, I'm not taking it to the office. At that point, it's no longer the teacher's responsibility. At that point, it goes to the administration, they will contact administration will now treat it as an insubordination. So, that's the part of the policy that's probably the heaviest part of this policy, but it almost has to be that way, because we can't have our staff get into power struggles with students over electronic devices. And our students have to understand, like, all you have to do is comply. Put it away, put it back in your pocket, put it in your bag, take it to the office, and we're done. Like, conversation's done. It's not a hard conversation. You can have it in 48 minutes when you walk out in the hallway, but you can't have it during class. So, I guess, do you guys have any main concerns, comments about the way that the policy is maybe being proposed?
I know there's nothing to be done about it because it is legislation, but to your point of, we want teachers to be able to teach, this is just another legislative item that is causing extra
Absolutely.
effort on teachers that's not well thought out.
Right.
That's my opinion. My concern on the all staff will be required to enforce the rule. I think I heard you say it's at teacher's discretion. So I'm thinking of, like, there are certain classrooms, kids have finished all their homework, they finished everything they've done. Is it a mandate they still can't pull out that phone to read a book on their Kindle or to play solitaire because they have nothing else to do?
They cannot. No. And that's a recommendation from, our attorney wants it banned all day, all the time.
Okay.
We're saying we need it, that's for communication purposes, that's impossible. You know, we're not gonna win that with parents. But for us to say you can have it during hallway time and during, because it becomes really, the problem with enforcement of it is you either need to have a clear-cut policy that says no classrooms at any time, because when you start opening up that avenue, there's no difference from what it is now. And if you start saying, well, it's not during instructional time, but if one teacher says, well, I put my assignments on Google Classroom and kids are just working, it's independent work time, they can have their cell phone out the entire time. And then the next class, a teacher's doing the same thing, but they count that as instructional time and kids have their phones out. Now we're getting in power struggles with kids because one kid says, well, Mrs. Shuffle says that I can have my cell phone out because it's independent work time. And that teacher's like, yeah, but to me this is instructional time, so you can't have it out, you know. And now we're setting the groundwork for more conflict that way versus saying no classrooms at any time. And that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make it easily enforceable. And when we say enforceable, we need them to just not turn a blind eye to it, be able to say, because where teachers get really, really frustrated is when some teachers are following the rules and other teachers are not, you know, and that makes it really, really uncomfortable for the ones who are trying to follow the rules, because they're like, I'm trying, I'm not winning because my neighbor's not doing it, you know. And so if we just say, listen, all you have to do by enforcing it is don't let them have it out. If I walk into your classroom, kids should not be on their phones. You know, they can have it in 48 minutes. They can start bringing a book to class. They can bring, you know, cards. They can bring, you know, if you want them to have something else, that's fine. And I also think it's a slippery slope when it comes to legislation if we try to identify what instructional time is, because it's up to different teachers to determine what their instructional time is, so.
Are
Has the
there any
legislature
teachers now
pinpointed that?
Well, not really, no. See, that's the problem, is the Department of Ed's recommendation, again, the Department of Ed, who's supposed to be providing guidance, was like, ban them all the time,
Right.
unless you don't
Just
want
need
to.
to. Right.
And it's like, well, that's like, you know, so they're really, it's just really becoming an iffy thing. And I can let Mr. Vinchattel, if there's anything that I haven't spoken about, or like, as a superintendent, it's easy for me to sit here and say we need to do this. As somebody who actually has to enforce it on a regular basis, you know.
We're spot on. If we start to try to identify instructional time, our policy is that right now. Students should not have them out during instructional times. And our policy states that the teachers to tell them to put them away, and after the second offense, they come to the office. We need to have a very clear, not out in the classrooms, you can have them during passing and lunchtime. That's just the only way we're going to be able to truly get after it. Frankly, the data is quite good. Schools that have gone to this model have had increased engagement, better test scores, less failures. I mean, really the data is speaking. It's the right move to make. And if we don't draw a hard line in the sand, we'll never get there.
Are there any teachers that do require, that utilize a phone on a daily basis? Like, well, you don't go buy a calculator because you have one.
There are, but we also provide a district Chromebook that can access everything
Okay.
essentially with the phone can. So calculators, scientific calculators.
Even solitaire.
Instead of buying a $150 scientific calculator, you can get one online.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
ebooks maybe.
So, yeah, there are. I mean, I've been in
Well-
several classrooms. It is nice sometimes to take the excuse away of like, wow, my Chromebook's not charged. Well, get your phone out and get on Google Classroom. But ultimately, in the end, we're just gonna have to be better about getting them on the Chromebook, having chargers, whatever it may be, to curb that problem. But they can access, their access to education will not be limited due to the fact that we're banning phones during class time.
And again, I forgot about the Chromebook. The Chromebook's available to them during the entire class time. So if the point of the ebook, if they want to continue, if they want to read an ebook on their phone, well, they can read an ebook on the Chromebook. If they want to play solitaire on the phone, they play solitaire on the Chromebook. Not that we want them to, but like, you know, there are options. Like the thing they can't do on their Chromebook is get on social media. You know, they can't get on social media. They can't direct message their parents. They can email their parents. You know, they can't direct message their parents. So like, there's just some things that it takes away, and really, it's not bad to remove social media from kids for a set period of time. You know, they shouldn't have access to social media 24/7. Like, that's not good for them. So.
I've just got one question that would apply mainly to high school kids, especially those that take classes at Iowa Western. They all have an authenticator app to access their classroom materials. Is there any situation at the school where they would still need to use that authenticator app to be able to access those things, or do we have a tool in place if they do any of those things at school to where they'd be able to get in?
If they were to get like booted from their Google account, which has happened to me, and logged off, they may need to run the authenticator for that. I don't think none of our other programs have a two-step authentication, right? So it's just their original Google account. And honestly, with those Chromebooks,
But I mean for Iowa Western kids that are trying to access the stuff. So like, they can go through the password on here, but,
like the Rock account,
yeah,
I mean, teachers are gonna be reasonable. Like
Okay.
if we're teaching English comp and all the kids go to sign on for the first day, I mean, I'm not saying that like it would be reasonable, but,
it would still just be teacher discretion. There wouldn't be.
well, technically not. I mean, technically the policy says no phones, but, obviously we have to work through those situations. And I think we'll get through them. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll make sure kids have access to all the
A-
educational
a-
materials that they need.
Common sense approach.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I
And
don't
honestly, with the
have any
changes
issues
to
with policy.
semesters,
Yeah.
you know, kids are going from 6 periods to 8 periods. They're gonna have shorter class periods, so there's less of that like ending, you know, the trimester system is designed in a way that you're supposed to be able to provide instruction, have collaborative work, and then have independent work, and have supported independent work. Well, it's been a long time since we've, you know, gone through that and really trained on that. So, you know, that end of class time that we get right now at 55 to 60 minutes isn't going to exist any longer, because you're gonna be sitting more at the 43 to 47 minutes depending on the day. And again, they have 8 periods instead of 6, so I'm hoping to utilize the time. I mean, that's our goal, so they won't have time for solitaire or reading, not that reading's bad, but you know, like I'm hoping that they're going to be utilizing that time to get homework done and to study, and maybe I'm Pollyanna.
Fantasy land.
Well, and there are a couple of random situations that we came up with. Like, one would be our new alternative learning center. Like, that is considered an instructional place the entire period from beginning, because there's no transition periods. There's nothing like, and kids eat lunches at different times. So being able to provide them an opportunity to check their messages as well on their phone as well, but then coming back in the workspace and not having access to their phone, that's something we'll work out. Same thing with our in-school suspension. That's considered an instructional space the entire time. But honestly, if you're in in-school suspension, you probably don't need to be checking your phone during the day, you know? So you'll still have lunchtime, you can check it, but outside of that, like, that's off limits as well. So we are looking into, we looked into several options for what do we want kids to do with the phone. So we want them to leave in the lockers. So the problem is we removed a lot of lockers because kids don't use lockers. So we really don't, I don't think we have a locker for every kid anymore. If they wanted it, I mean, if they want one, we give them one, but most kids don't use a locker. You know, requiring them to keep them in their bags, that's an option. Requiring them to check them in, like in each classroom and put them in that becomes a deal if somebody grabs somebody else's phone. There's an option out there, it's called almost like a magnet or a bag. It's like a bag that when you come into the school, you slide your phone in it and then you swipe a magnet, and it's locked until you swipe the magnet again. And then you put the magnets like at the entry of the school and then like at lunch. So then they're basically in the bag. You have the bag on you the entire day, so you never lose sight of your phone. But in order to open it again, you have to swipe a magnet. That's pretty cost prohibitive. We'd rather teach kids how to be, you know, self-manage and et cetera, and have options for in between class periods and those types of things. We have talked about using the bags though, purchasing some to try them out for in-school suspension and during the alternative ed classroom period.
And
So.
potentially kids that can't follow the policy.
Or kids that can't follow the policy, correct? Because that's the biggest.
Situations where they have to put their phone in a bag. But
Yeah, and you will see in the policy too that there is exceptions for students based on 504 plans or medical need. Primarily, I'm thinking like my nephew has diabetes and he has he has his monitor and he has his. I mean, everything's on his phone, so he carries a phone everywhere he goes because it tells him what his levels are, what his insulin, when he has to do an insulin pump, like it does all of that. So there will be exceptions for that. And again, we talked about too, like there's also an excuse in there for like, there might be a situation. We brought up a situation, for instance, if a parent called and said, listen, Mr. Vinchat, or, Joe's grandpa is going to pass away any minute. Is there any way that he can carry his cell phone on him for the day? And if he passes away, we can notify him right away. Like there are situations like that we are absolutely going to be compliant with. We're gonna support students first. That's what we always do. But for the most part, it's not necessarily needed. So.
Mandy would like me to add that the middle school, for a while now, in their policy has required the kids to keep them in the locker. She said this worked really well, so they will continue to utilize that.
Do we require parents to, like if they get the handbook, to initial it or do anything like that? Do we need an exhibit or an addendum or something to this that would outline to parents, okay, your kid can only check their messages from 9:30 to 9:34, something to outline to specific, bring the attention to what the legislature has said and what we're going to be doing?
So we will have a rollout. We talked about the best way to communicate this with parents and for staff or for students. Any of the disciplinary things, like this is a board policy. Like discipline will vary based on building and based on age group. And so we talked about the buildings creating their own disciplinary matrices based on what's best for their buildings. This would be what this policy says is there will be discipline for violators of this policy. There will be discipline for having your cell phone out when you're not supposed to, and going in insubordination, which is a different offense than just having your cell phone out. It's going to happen. The cell phone's going to fall out of pocket. It's going to turn on a ringer. Somebody's going to take it from somebody and have it. We're going to see it. And it just comes down to, and our teachers, we've always given our teachers the discretion to monitor this in their classrooms. And the biggest thing is they just can't have them out. They can't give them the permission to have it out. But if a teacher says, I don't want teachers to think like, oh my gosh, Jen McDaniel's such a great student and she actually has her cell phone sitting or her cell phone buzzed. Now I have to give her a disciplinary consequence. Be like, no, here's the deal. You're a great student. It's the first time it ever happened. Like, just don't let it happen. Now, if I look at Mr. Sturm, not picking on Mr. Sturm, but if he's like, Bubba, this is the 9th time in this week that you've had your cell phone out. Like, now we're going to look at a classroom discipline. Now you can't have your cell phone anymore. Now you got to take it to the office for the day. Like, we want to give our teachers the discretion to be able to do that. But as far as the insubordination is not going to be dealt with staff. That's going to go straight to administration. That's not That's simply if a kid's gonna tell a staff member, no, I'm not gonna comply with you, that is instant insubordination. And we need, and that can't occur, you know?
I just
So.
wondered if there was anything that, to bring it to the, more of attention to the parents, because
Oh.
like with me, I would text my kids, not that they have to know right now, but hey, I have to go down to grandma and grandpa's, I'm not gonna be home when you get home.
Yeah.
You know, I text them then, not that they have to call me or anything, but are they going to, but if I needed to talk to them besides calling the office, is there something that we can present to parents? Because that is going to be one of the things. It's like, why can't I just text my kid real quick and they answer me real quick?
Right, and it does say, except for passing periods, lunches before and after school, and then every building has a clear-cut schedule where it discusses the passing periods, the lunch periods, and before and after school. So,
right.
if they can put those two together, match them up, and we can
That-
probably send a communication out that says,
Right.
just
Hey,
a reminder, at the
this
high
is the
school, and
new
we can actually
state
have the
policy.
buildings do that.
Yeah, so we
Here's our
discussed, we
policy.
met, we discussed the district was gonna send out the policy updates. From district level, this is the policy updates. And then the individual buildings will communicate their very specific, like, 'cause
Okay.
I'll even probably say, here's like kind of the progression of consequences if they don't do what
Right.
they're supposed to do, just so that there's no surprises. So when it
Right.
comes down to it and the staff member asks for a phone, nobody's surprised that they'd have to turn their phone over to things. So yeah,
Right.
yeah, you're spot on,
Right.
It'll be
'Cause-
something we communicate, especially at our level, because we'll probably be the most active building.
Right, right. Well, and it's just, you know, educating the parents that the state has changed this is what we're doing.
Yeah, and we've got to
These
give
are the
right
times.
numbers.
Yeah.
In fact, the legislation says that we have to have a plan on how they can reach their kids, so that would be everything we send out, is like, here's who you call, here's the numbers to call.
Right.
You know, probably we give them a few numbers so that if someone doesn't answer, then, you know, in case of an emergency, use this line or whatever, and yeah, we'll communicate that all out.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Any other comments? And so for this, are we voting on this policy tonight?
That's
then?
up to you guys. We think it's ready to go, but it is, I mean, it's a pretty heavy policy. It's definitely not like one that I want you guys to take lightly, so if you guys feel like you have because it can be a one and done, if you guys want to table it, think about it, chew it over, and we have it back on the 21st, like, that's an option as well.
Because this is
So.
the first reading. And
It,
so,
Yeah.
it is, but it can be a first and final because this was enacted by legislative change. So you don't have to, if it was just you guys have decided to do this on your own, there would have to be two readings. But because this is a result of legislative change, it can be a first and final.
without students in the buildings right now, I like the idea of a first reading and a second reading to give
Mhm.
people who may be listening
Yeah,
or hear
for
about
sure.
the policy some time to think about it, is
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
my personal opinion on this.
Well, and I like with this policy, it's being tailored to Lewis Central. Otherwise, you could have, like the lawyer said, hey, put them in your locker, don't bring them to school, and you don't see them all day long.
Yeah, and I don't
So
think
this
that would have
is-
been accepted very
No,
well. So,
no. Absolutely not.
Okay, so is everybody,
I think I like it, but I do agree that I think it should be the first reading. That way, should somebody want to come and face to face at our next meeting, it gives them a chance.
yeah, absolutely.
okay.
And that's why I put it up originally at the first reading, and I'm like, well, if everybody's fine with it, it doesn't have to be a first reading, it can be. So that's why I put the options in there. So, I mean, this is a pretty heavy one.
I
This
mean-
is
Yeah.
not, because
I
we
think
do
I'm-
have a little bit of leeway in there, so.
I think I'm okay with it, but I would welcome anybody that has any opposition to come, and I would definitely listen.
Okay.
One of the things, I did want to, one of the reasons we put the language in there that says all staff will enforce it is because it gives some teeth and some credibility to those who want to force it, or to be able to say, listen, I have to enforce this, like,
And-
we're taking the onus off of them because right now it's really up to the teachers whether or not they enforce it. And so some teachers are getting a bad rap for allowing it or not allowing it, and other people aren't, versus saying, you will all enforce, you know, everybody will enforce it. And so then that takes off the burden of being like, it's not my choice. Like, I'm asking to put it away because it's a policy that I have to
Yeah.
follow, you know, so.
And it's coming from the state.
And it's coming from the state,
Right, yeah.
which the board is reflective of whatever the state's decisions are, so.
I don't have any issues with the policy as it's written, but I like the idea of providing additional feedback if people want to offer it. So is everybody in agreement to, to table that vote and move it to next time?
Sure.
Okay. Let me write that one off. Okay, then we will move to 7.06, Power School Renewal.
So these are just our Power School renewals. We have the following products. They all come from Power School. So enrollment registration, our student information system, maintenance support and hosting, predictive enrollment. This is the new product that we bought last year that is them pairing with the city and coming up with wherever these new housing developments are, the number of units, and then they have a factor that goes into, you know, if it's apartment building that's being built, like a one-bedroom apartment, what are the chances they're gonna have kids versus if it's a single-family housing, affordable housing versus a $1 million house. You know, they take all these things into consideration, and then they provide us some predictive enrollment opportunities. They're still building it, and so this is kind of, we started it about mid-year. This will be for them to continue. It's a yearly hosting fee. So, and then Smart Find and Timeclock Plus, that's what we use for all of our employee management systems. So, and then we have Perform, which is a new, it's kind of our warehouse for student analytics. Is that a good way to?
No.
Oh, this is the PD one.
Teachers' evaluations,
Yeah.
their career development plan.
That's right.
All of those things, walk through data.
Yeah.
And then records, we are still waiting for that renewal, but the applicant tracking renewal came in, and that is $1,055.93 for that. So that total Power School renewal without records is $89,630.19.
Can you repeat the number one more time for them?
$89,630.19.
So we don't have to specify each one. We
No.
can just do a total. 89,632,
630 and then 19.
30, gotcha.
And that includes the applicant tracking?
Yes.
It does not include records, so we'll have to do records on its own. And if it's under 20, I'll just approve it. So.
And it normally is one that is under 20. So.
And this is just a question from my standpoint. Have we evaluated any other systems since the hack?
We have not. We've evaluated where we store all of our stuff, and really what's funny is we went cloud-based because we were hacked. So we went cloud-based because that was the safer system, and the cloud was hacked. So it's like, I don't know where to go. I will tell you that there is a big push at the state level right now to have us all move under one, a singular student information system. Right now, there are 4 different student information systems used widely throughout really 3 that are used widely throughout the state: Infinite Campus, JMC, and Power School. There's a 4th one that's starting to get utilized by some other school districts. I've been a part of some state level meetings where we've talked about, you know, the pros and cons of each system, what we're looking at. I would not be surprised if next legislative session, they require us all to go under a single umbrella. So at this point, it would not make any sense to even engage in the conversation, because we could change, you know, like, let's say we changed to Infinite Campus, which I loved Infinite Campus. That's what we had in Missouri Valley. I think it's way more user-friendly. But if we switch to Infinite Campus and then next year the state adopts Power School, we would come back to Power School. So like, it just doesn't make any sense at this point.
Okay.
Well, is Power School just a standalone system, or is it integrated with attendance and?
That's, yeah, this Power School does everything.
It's got
Power School
multiple
does
programs.
Yeah, Power School is the umbrella for basically almost everything we do that's related to student information systems or employee management throughout the district.
So if we were to change from Power School,
it would,
Everything would change.
everything would change. And on the flip side, we have customized Power School. We've spent a ton of money over the years customizing Power School to fit exactly what we want with our reports, our applications, everything else. For us to start fresh with a new company and to request the same amount of customizations that we currently have through Power School, I can't imagine what that cost would be. I know, just to do a minor modification or in Infinite Campus was like 10,000. When we were with Missouri Valley, and that's just a small modification for something what we wanted. I can't imagine to do all the mapping and everything that we do through Power School. I mean, it could be hundreds of thousands. So.
And the HR platforms that we are with for Power School, those are all pretty recent ones that we have brought on. Records probably being the oldest one, and we brought that one shortly after COVID. And then Perform, Smart Finance Express, Time Clock Plus, all of those, we just brought out those on last year. So this was our first full year with those products. So those are pretty recent ones that we've looked at what was the best option for all of those. So they have been pretty recent. And I will say also, with Power School's hack, that was only in the student information system. So it did not go across all of the products. So all of our records information was all still safe.
It'll be interesting to see what they decide to have us do, because it's not a fun
Easy
transition. Yeah.
Was the change 18 or 19?
So the pro for making a
6:30.
switch and doing a statewide system is right now,
Because my calculator
their
said-
state system has to
Did I-
communicate with 4 different products. So,
It's,
If they want like a
I'll do
data or anything
19,
like
we'll
that,
come under a
then-
penny budget.
yeah, it's more or less, honestly, I think it's more about the funding piece. I think it's when you have schools, when you have students that are leaving, let's say they leave us and they go to Missouri Valley, and they're leaving from, Missouri Valley just went to JMC, so if they're leaving a Power School district, they're going to JMC, they don't talk to each other, so we have to send records requests over, and then versus if we have a student that leaves us and goes to JMC, and or if we both are the same product, it's a flip of a switch, and now all of our student stuff is just boom over to the next school. That instantly could be communicated to the state, and then they would know who to send the funding to from that point if they want to do daily funding. I hope it doesn't get to the point where there's been some discussion with chronic absenteeism that we would receive money only on days that students attend. And so, let's say, Rylan Hazen gets really sick and is gone 20 days, that the state would not send us money for that 20 days, which is a really bad move because it's not like that we let go of a staff member, for 20 days while she's been gone, like, doesn't make any sense. And so,
You would have no control over your budget at that point.
no control over the budget. And so that's been some whisperings. I really hope that that's not, of course, everybody, whenever they talk about changes, everybody wants to go instantly to the bad. And what's funny is that used to be like, almost like laughable when you think about like, what's the worst case scenario when it comes to a change like that? But anymore, like, that's probably the scenario. Like, it's nuts. Like, the worst case scenario used to be like, yeah, but that'll never happen. Now it's like, crap, that's probably gonna happen, it's just different, so.
Well, even for open and roll out, or in, I mean, if
Yeah.
we're paying other schools and that would be.
And it could be, I think in their mind, that could be instantaneous if they had all the systems the same across the state, so.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, 7.07, City of Council Bluffs Property Cooperative Use Agreement.
Can you go to the map real quick? So what this agreement does, it basically allows us to build on their property, and it just formalizes our agreement with them, so if you look at the red line, approximately a third of that property, that we've maintained for years is actually city-owned property. And, So it never became an issue because we've not really done anything with that ground, except for the fact that when we go to put the new tennis courts in, I just don't like to invest money in property that we don't own. And so coming up with an agreement of some sort, they did not want to sell the property to us, and they do not want to vacate the property so we can have it. So they want to continue to own the property in case we ever decide we don't want the bike path. And it's the Parks Department, how I understand it, that wants the property, to retain the property, because then that way, if we ever decide we're not going to have the bike path on our property more, which I don't know how that works because I think it's a federal program, and I think we weren't even allowed to remove it, so,
When
but,
it was first done, the city and school, it's like, the school at that time was like, oh, it's a sidewalk,
Right.
through that they can do it. And then when we wanted to remove it, 4 years ago? When Dr. Knost was here, they couldn't find any agreement between, because the city was coming back saying it had to be, the cement and 8 inches thick, and I mean, it was going to cost quite a
Yeah.
bit.
so what
Yeah.
this agreement does is it just formalizes that that is a city bike path that's on our property, they're responsible for maintaining it, and the blue areas right there, which is our access road behind the gym, or behind the school, behind the field, and the tennis courts it's our responsibility to maintain, even though we're building on their property. So it's just a flip-flop. So it just formalizes this arrangement that we have.
And it's good to have an agreement.
Yeah, and there's no money changing
Right.
hands or anything like that. It's just
Right.
just an agreement.
Has the city already signed off? Are they waiting for our sign off?
They just sent it to me and said this is the final agreement, so.
So they're
Yeah,
in
so we'll,
agreement with it.
yeah, so we'll sign it. Yeah, they're the ones that created it, so I hope they're in agreement with it.
Okay,
How
thank you.
far does the maintenance go to it? I mean, if it's cracked, they re-pour it? Do
Yeah.
they do the sidewalk,
I think,
salt and sanding?
well, that's just it,
I mean, I don't know how far you go with all that.
right. I mean, this states that that's their responsibility to maintain, so
Yeah.
that to me states that it's not our responsibility anymore, which we have been, maintaining it, so we'll allow
Right.
them to maintain it, and we'll go back to doing the tennis courts and stuff, so.
Because we wanted them to get it on their property,
Yeah.
up on the train trestle, the track, that area, and they wouldn't. And we had to, I know Dr. Knost had a lot of conversations with them.
Yeah,
And then it ended up being cheaper to go ahead and do the cement.
yeah.
And so that's why we have
And-
that.
And really, I don't mind it, like, it's not, I mean, it's good to have partners, it's good to be like, collaborative, but it's also nice to have an agreement of some sort, so if something is questioned,
Absolutely.
we have the ability to go back and say, this is what is the
Yeah.
agreement,
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
but.
Any other questions on this?
Is there a timeline on this? I mean, does it expire at some point, or no?
No, it just continues for year to year. It says you can cancel it within, if you go back to the agreement real quick. It's like notification by either party within, let's see
90
here.
days.
90 days.
Oh, all
Prior
right,
written notice.
got it.
Automatically renews, 1 year, but,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
We'll move on to 7.08, or 7.08, the Green Hills AEA contract for transfer of state funding.
So this basically says that the 90% that they get for the special education funding would just automatically go to them. Like, we just have to provide them our ACH and the money just automatically. Right now, how it is they basically have to bill us for it, and we gotta write the check to them. So this just creates an automatic transition between us and them. Is that correct? Yeah.
It's required by law that we have to automatically send it to them at the same time that we get our monthly state aid.
And I've received this agreement electronically, but have not signed it yet. pending.
Yes, correct. I told them that we were approving it this evening, so she said she would send it to you today,
Okay.
so we had it.
Any other questions on this one? Okay, then we will move to 7.09, Storm Protection Fund Resolution.
This is that liability insurance that we talked about, that rather than, essentially this is a rider that we would approve, that's a, $71,000 rider that would then create our deductible at 50,000 versus, 1.8 million.
Does there have to be other schools that go in on it for it to be the 71,000, or is it?
They have already calculated the number of schools that they believe they're going to get. They have a minimum, and they're already past the minimum.
Okay, perfect.
So, yeah.
So what's the max amount that we're covered for?
The totality of our buildings. So,
So for everything, so like if a
Well-
tornado comes through or?
well, what it would do is it would pay up to 1.8 million, so.
Okay, that's
yeah.
what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
Then after then,
And then after
insurance
that,
kicks
then our
in.
insurance kicks in, correct.
And the 71,
Is an annual
1,000.
fee,
right, but we take that out of the management fund,
correct, yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's an insurance policy.
right?
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll go to 7.10, Gene Tech licensing renewal, 5-year.
Yep, so Genetec is the system we use to monitor all of our cameras. So, so this comes out to, they gave us a 1-year renewal, a 3-year renewal, and a 5-year renewal. It comes out to about 10,000 a year. It's like 9,900 and something, per year for us to have our Genetec licensing. And that's really because we have 1 million cameras on our system. And so, this renewal will just lock us into a 5-year at basically $35,000. So it saves us $15,000 over a period of 5 years. So,
And this will work with all the new cameras that we're getting installed?
yep, so all of our cameras are Genetec cameras. So everything, this basically would give us enough licensing to be able to cover all the cameras. So,
Any other comments? Okay, 7.11, site preparation, new property.
so this one here, is, we have, the new property down that we just purchased. At some point, we're gonna have to do some work and create a retention pond and start bringing in some dirt and start doing some, ground clearing. And so this would kind of be maybe a first phase of that, just to try to use some of the money that we've saved and start, clearing some of the bushes and the trees and the junk that's down there. We're actually just gonna seed it and turn it to grass, because then the community can come utilize it in whatever fashion they want. They can come play soccer, or football, fly kites. It's just a goodwill gesture to the community that says, we're not gonna wait 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years to build a new school for the community to be able to utilize it. They're gonna be able to utilize it right away. So, Morris Excavating, we did reach out to, I think, 4 different organizations. We just got the one bid from Morris, turned in on time. And it is essentially creating that retention pond, clearing all the brush and debris, and then moving all of the dirt and grading it to essentially the same size as about 3 football or 3 soccer fields big is what it is. So we're moving one practice field right now down by the high school to put the tennis court in, and I know there's been a lot of angst about that. This would be putting 3 back in. So we would still have some seeding to do after this, but this will get all the grading done and everything. It did have to go up a little bit because they had an additional 2,000 cubic yards of dirt from the high school parking lot that needed to be moved. And so now they had to add that into the bid. Before it was about 80,000. They had to, add some more money in there so they could move all the additional dirt as well. So I told them, don't get rid of the dirt because I don't want to pay later for dirt. So let's bring it over and we'll put it somewhere. So
So this is only in an area that is already, just a land, or?
it's just land. So
Okay.
when they,
So there's no crop on it or anything
no,
like that? Okay.
when they went to farm, because we're renting out the rest of that property to farmers to
Right.
farm. And when they went to rent it out, I had this area specifically set aside in case we wanted to do something with it. And
Okay.
so it comes out to an area around 10 or 12 acres. So, we didn't miss that much, rental income, so.
What would parking be like to utilize that area?
So the city's gonna require us to put in paved parking. We've been in a lot of conversations, like Rock, the only way they would do Rock is if it's a staging area, and if we do a staging area, we have to install a fence and lighting, and so it came down to, we're probably gonna have to put in a small asphalt parking lot, and that would be approximately the size for, 6 to 8 cars. We're not gonna put it very big, because there's not a lot of cars that go down there. And then I guess at that point, once we have it down there, if people end up parking in the grass or whatever around it, then so be it, But I do want some hard surface or something down there, just so that way they can't, they can access it if it's wet. I don't want people down there tearing it up all the time, so.
Did we end up figuring out if the well works?
No, I haven't checked the well yet, so.
So can you walk, so we have to get the parking lot, we're doing the dirt work, then we have to do the seed, and then we have to get the water working, so. And then
Correct.
That's pretty much ready to
And then
go.
it's pretty much ready to go.
And then
Yeah.
do you have any concerns with mowing that area? With it, like, do we have the capacity to add a whole 3 football fields worth of mowing with our current?
Yeah, I think, that wouldn't be, because we're removing one field, so essentially we're eliminating one and then we're adding 2. So it's just, and the nice thing is when they're a field, it's
Down and back.
down and back, going back around. Now, if I put a bunch of landscaping in there, they were not gonna like that. They tell me there's no more capacity for landscaping, so, but field, I think mowing's not gonna be a huge issue, yeah.
And so this is the price for just the dirt work?
This is just the dirt work, creating the retention pond, grading it all to the right level, and then basically getting it ready for the next step, which would be seeding and any asphalt work we decide to do, so.
And that's all the trees basically on the corner, right?
Yeah, so that would,
So-
yep,
Because wasn't the pond right on the corner? And
Right on
then you
the
had
corner.
the property where the horse was.
yep.
So all those trees are in fence rows are all gone, right?
Yep, all of them will be gone. Yep.
So-
We'll potentially keep some of the trees just for a buffer, but we gotta go down there and pick some of them out. But there's a lot of undergrowth, and there's a ton of barbed wire, like randomly laying around that they gotta remove, so.
So it'll clean it up pretty nice, I think.
It will be, yeah. It'll look really nice. Yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, then we will move to the second portion of our meeting where we open the floor to, at this point, anybody online that would have comments or suggestions for the board.
So I do have one. David Borghetti is a parent in our community. David lives at, I think it was 721. Hold on, I'll look it up here, David. 1 second. He's messaging online. Emma's sharing them with me. He lives at 712 Valley View Drive. A couple of his questions, and I think I answered a lot of these. Let's see if there's one in here. So one of the questions he says, with SRO more forward-facing in the high school edition, will additional training be considered for de-escalation, nonviolent crisis intervention, and for safe crisis management? Now, we do require all of our staff that interact with students to go through, or all of our like paraeducators, our office staff, and our security personnel to go through, what's that training called that Mrs. Teese gives? CPI training, and that 80% of CPI is de-escalation, so they do have to do that. The other question that he asked was, Genetech, does that cover badging and the LPRS that are being considered? Genetech is just the security camera system that we can go back and forth. So, and so I take it back. Security cameras and door monitoring. So it does all of our badge access. It does all the door monitoring. It does all the security cameras. The badges that we talked about earlier belong to the Raptor system. It's a separate badge, so our staff will actually carry around 2 badges. One that'll have our door access on it, and the other badge that has just a response system in it, a button you push and it can triangulate and those types of things. So And then the students is literally just a vinyl badge that has a QR code on it that they scan. Like, that's all it is. And then the other question that he has is, do QR codes work with Chromebooks? Absolutely. We currently use Chrome. All of our elementary students have kind of the same thing, like a badge with a QR code right now that they actually use to access their computer. And then Chromebooks have decent abilities with if there are activities that would benefit from using the phones, accelerometers, and other sensors or their expectations. And again, we kind of talked about this a little bit, like, you know, if there's no other way around it and a student has to, utilize their phone because they got locked out of their Google account, or, we need to do something like that would be an option. But otherwise, they're not to be used on a daily basis. They're not to be used to listen to music. They're not to be used to play games on. They're not to be used to communicate. They need to be put away all the other times. But if there's absolutely not another option, and this is the only other option, then they can get permission from the administration to use them. There is a clause in the policy that allows for that. So, but the teachers would have to basically ask the administration and say, we have a student that has this issue, can they utilize their phone for this particular use? And the administration will say yes, and then that way, again, it takes it out of the hands of the teachers. We don't want to put teachers in a situation where we've told one student this and the other student no. Put that all back on the backs of the administration. Make them make the decision, make them communicate what it is, so.
Well, and at that point, it would be like a meeting, I would hope, with the parent and the administration and the student.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, hearing no further comments and suggestions, we will move into action items. So 9.01, BVU Memo of Understanding.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the memo of understanding with BVU for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.02, 2025-26 District Student Fees.
Mr. President, the student fees ones, sorry, wrong. I'd like to make the motion to approve the recommended district student fees for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.03, Medical Leave Pool Policy, second reading.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the certified employee medical leave pool policy as presented.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.04, we agreed to move to next meeting for any additional comment. So we'll move to 9.05, Power School Renewal.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the yearly renewal for Power School applications for a total of $89,630.19.
Second.
Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.06, City of Council Bluffs Property Cooperative Use Agreement.
Mr. President, I'd like
Yes.
to make the motion to approve the property cooperative use agreement with the city of Council Bluffs.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Green Hills Area Education Association Contract for Transfer of State Funding.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract for transfer of state funding with Green Hills AEA as presented.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.08, Storm Protection Fund Resolution.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the resolution to participate in the Storm Protection Fund, in Iowa Code Chapter 28E entity, and Chapter 670 risk pool.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.09, Genetech licensing renewal, 5-year.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 5-year Genetech license renewal with Prime secured for $34,987.55.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 9.10, site preparation, new property.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the bid for site preparation from Morris Excavating for $91,000.
Second.
Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 10.01, superintendent end-of-year evaluation. Closed session, or excuse me, per Iowa Code 21.51A, closed session is appropriate to review or discuss records which are required or authorized by state or federal law to be kept confidential or to be kept confidential as a condition for that governmental body's possession or continued receipt of federal funds. And then are we just going to end the meeting at this point? Okay. And then end in closed session. Okay. Can I get a motion to move to closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.